p.m. The December hearing of the Westborough Conservation Commission is now in session. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Westborough Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the Town of Westborough website, files, uploads, COVID-19_meeting_info_1 PDF. No in-person attendance of members by the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Westborough website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting at the Town of Westborough website, Conservation Commission /news/Conservation Commission remote meeting info. That being said, I've been informed that this meeting will not be live streamed, and it will be posted on YouTube at the town website as soon as possible. First item on the agenda is Fred Leonardo, Building Commissioner, to talk to us about his new position with the town.
Thank you for inviting me or allowing me to attend tonight. I know you have a packed agenda, so I'll be very brief. My name is Fred Leonardo, and most of you may not run into me, but anyway, I'm presently the building commissioner in town. I've been here a little over 3 years. As of January 1st, I will be adding to my title to be community development director as well. That'll be basically a consolidation of economic development coordinator, Conservation Commission, or not commission, but the Conservation Director, and we'll interact with Planning Board as well, and then building. So nothing really changes for the most part, except those people report to me directly. As far as we have a very good working relationship, meaning conservation agent and both Jordan and Sherry. I don't see that changing. I just see that strengthening with this consolidation. So I wanted to make sure that everybody would rest assured that nothing really changes in that regard. And we've had a great relationship right along, so I don't see that changing. And I just kind of wanted to let everybody know that. As far as the Conservation Commission itself, I don't have any jurisdiction on that. It's an independent board. There'd be no influence from me or that consolidation relative to that. And I just kind of throw it up to questions if anybody has any questions for me directly.
Does anybody in the board have any questions or concerns about this new reporting structure? Okay, hearing none. Fred, I thank you for your time and appreciate you coming to the meeting, and I hope everything goes well with this new reporting structure. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I may just stay on, but I'll just be in the background.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, it's about 7:05, is the continued hearing for the Notice of Intent, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, DCAM, map 38, parcel 289 Lyman Street. We've already had the hearing on the site. We got a file number, DEP file number 332-913. We're going to, since we had the hearing, we're going to vote on an order of conditions this evening. The order of conditions and other materials were put in the Dropbox. Does anybody on the commission have any comments regarding issuing a notice of intent, an order of conditions?
Andy, I've got Dan LaFrance and James Matz as well that represent the project. Just so you know.
Okay. Is there anything else from the board on this project? Okay. 10 hearing for DCAM 289 Lyman Street. Map 38, Parcel 2, with special conditions, with special conditions 21 to 37 in the order of conditions. Do I have a motion?
What were the, I'm sorry, I have not had a chance to read the special conditions. There are a number of special conditions.
Yeah, they're pretty much standard. Jordan?
I apologize. Could they be read, or is that too much time?
I do not have them in front of me.
Okay.
We can,
Mr. Matz, it's not typical that we would read out the special conditions at a meeting.
Okay.
They're very standard. They're related to pre-construction meeting conditions, erosion sedimentation controls in place and verified. I mean, the commission will vote tonight, and you'll receive them. You'll need to record them. I can certainly talk with you offline, but there's 20 or so that are very typical and standard for this Conservation Commission.
Oh, okay. I guess I was thinking of those as so-called general conditions, but okay.
The general conditions are 1 through 19, and then the local Conservation Commission will add on to that.
Okay.
That's very typical.
And those are numbered. I'm sorry. I'll read it when I get it. Numbered 20 through
21 through 37.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion has been, I need a motion.
So moved.
And second. Kelly Marston.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Andrew Kenningsburg, yes. Tim Buckaloo is.
He's here.
Okay, he's muted right now, Tim. So you're talking a lot, but I can't hear you. It's
Unmute Tim.
okay. There you go. Yes. Okay. Tim's having the same kind of audio problems I had the last time around. Stephanie Kelly,
Yes.
Justin Lundberg.
Yes.
You sound so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Gary Kessler,
Yes.
Jerry Cushing.
Abstain.
Okay. And Kelly Marston.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much for attending.
Andy, are you aware that we can't see you anymore?
We did. Now we can't.
We saw you at first, but then you disappeared.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to stay off camera because my system is giving me a hard time. It's interesting. The only people I have the problem with is Conservation Commission. So it's bad juju, I guess.
That's weird.
Yep.
I know my kids, the teachers asked them all to turn their cameras off because when they all have their cameras on, it like crashes their classes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's weird. Okay. As long as you guys can still hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, good. The next item on the agenda is the continued hearing for notice of intent, CASA Investments, Map 4, Parcel 235115 Quick Farm Road, DEP file number 332912. We're going to vote to issue an order. I need a motion to close the notice of intent hearing for CASA Investments and issue an order of conditions for DEP file number 332912 with special conditions 21 to 41. Do I have a motion?
Tim said so moved, but we can't hear him.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Second,
Second.
roll call vote. Andrew Kenningsburg, yes. Tim Buckaloo is,
Technically difficulty. No, he's off.
I'll skip him for now. Stephanie Kelly,
Yes.
Justin Lundberg,
Yes.
Got to pay attention there, Chief.
Well, I couldn't hear anything from you, Andy. Like you're breaking up.
All right, I'm gonna dial in because this is kind of annoying. So bear with me 1 second.
Tim, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me?
Tim, I'm asking if we can hear Tim. No, we still can't hear you.
God, that is just so strange.
Tim, you're going to need to use hand signals or something. Your audio hasn't been working all evening.
Andy,
Yeah,
you're loud and clear.
phone. Maybe if he called on the phone.
I think we could do Pictionary. Pictionary would be great. Tim can just draw his opinions.
Up or down. Okay, moving right along, Gary Kessler,
Yes.
Jerry Cushing,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here last month and I had questions.
okay. And it looks like Tim Bucklew, yes. Right. Motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a notice of intent hearing for Fire Tech LLC, map 36, parcel 17, 5 Technology Drive. I do not have the public notice. Was that in the Dropbox, Jordan?
Sorry. Let me drop it in there. I apologize, Andy. It's going to take me a second to do that.
Yeah.
I also have to let in the panelists. So just give me 1 minute here.
Yep.
Okay, Andy, I've dropped both legal ads for 5 Technology Drive and the West Park Drive extension into their respective boxes. I'll do the same. I'll do the same for 1 Garfield Drive and the Lyman Street right of way. Can you verify with me that you can see those?
Right now, I'm trying to find, I have a link, trying to get my link for the Dropbox,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay.
So,
Worst case scenario, I can share my screen so that you can see.
yeah, I can't find the link right now.
Okay, I just want to let in the folks that are going to represent both 5 Technology Drive and West Park Drive extension.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Never mind, I found it.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, so let me, okay, West Park Drive. Okay, I see the plans. I don't, is it under public meetings?
Should be under public meetings 12/8/20. And if you go into 5 Technology Drive, you'll see a document that says 5 Technology DR.
Yep.
And that should be the public notice on the second page. Yes, it is.
All right.
Do you see that?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
In accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Westborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Westborough Conservation Commission will conduct a virtual public hearing held on December 8th, 2020 at 7:10 p.m. Remote participation and instructions are posted at the Conservation Commission webpage. The commission will consider a notice of intent filed by 5 Tech LLC located at 5 Technology Drive in Westborough, Massachusetts. The proposed project is construction of a 3-story office building and associated parking and infrastructure. Okay. All right, so Mr. Feeney, you have the floor.
Okay, great. Would it be helpful for me to share my screen with a plan?
Yes.
Okay, hold on one second.
Let me know if you're having trouble, Dan. I think Sherry set this up so all panelists have access to share screen, but if that's not the case, let me know.
Alrighty. Let me see if we can go. Alrighty. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just a colorized version of the site plan here. So we met informally with the commission probably a month or so or a little bit longer ago, perhaps, prior to the filing of the notice of intent to discuss the proposed development at 5 Technology Drive, and also to discuss the fact that the project does have a valid site plan review approval, and therefore under the local bylaw regulations, we're deemed to be an existing project and therefore not subject to the local wetlands bylaw. So the plan that we have submitted as part of the notice of intent is essentially a plan very similar to the one that was approved back in 2001 by the Conservation Commission for an order of conditions. Since that time, there have been certified vernal pools adjacent to the proposed work site that have been identified out there. But basically, we're coming back in with a very similar plan. We did eliminate 3 parking spaces from that to be into compliance with having less than 5,000 square feet of wetland fill. The project site does have a valid order of resource area delineation that was approved by the Conservation Commission back in 2016, and that was extended back in 2019. So that's sort of the background on this. North on this plan is towards the left of the plan, and to the east of the site. So the top of the page is Route 495. The site has frontage on Technology Drive, and there are wetlands, a bordering vegetative wetland both to the east and to the south of the site. And then to the north of the site is an isolated vegetative wetland, and that contains a vernal pool. And basically the vernal pool limits are coincident with the isolated vegetative wetland limits up there. So the proposal is for a 103,000 square foot building with podium parking underneath the building. The proposal has 400 parking spaces, so it's compliant with the zoning requirements for the number of parking that's required out there. As part of the proposed project site, there is roughly 4,750 square feet of wetland fill. That happens along the southern edge of the development and also the southeastern edge. We are proposing a little over 5,000 square feet of wetland replication, and that would happen basically in the areas immediately adjacent to where the fill is happening. So again, to the south of the project site and also to the east along the southeast corner. The stormwater management design for the project has been designed to comply with the latest stormwater management handbook requirements of the Mass DEP. It's going to be controlled through 2 underground detention basins. We have noted that we are looking for relief from the requirement for infiltration, recharge to groundwater based on the soil conditions out at the site not being conducive to infiltration, and that's allowed into the DEP stormwater handbook when the soils out there don't have any infiltration capabilities. But we are proposing stormwater proprietary structures to treat the first 1 inch of stormwater runoff from the site. So we did get comments from Mass DEP as part of the file number issuance that we'll respond to. Jordan also did provide comments as well that we can respond to. Notably, we will try to move the edge of pavement and the corresponding guardrail and retaining wall off the edge of the certified vernal pool over in here by lessening this island on the northern part of the building site. We will take a look at the other comments and address as appropriate. That's sort of an overview of the project. Happy to answer any questions or, provide any other further information that the commission deems appropriate.
Questions from the board?
Could you just scroll the page down so we can read the bottom? So that lower basin, does that also go into the sewer system?
It goes into the municipal drainage system, yes.
Okay, thanks.
On the north side of the building, if I have my orientation right, that corridor along the north side of the building, is that any activities being conducted there? Or is that just for bypass and through traffic?
Yeah, it's to provide circulation around the building. There is some parking over on the north side of the building as well.
So that activity is just limited to parking then, pretty much on that side?
Yeah, parking and vehicular circulation. The garage entry is over on the other side of the building over here.
Dan, this is Jordan McCarron. I just learned today that the Mass DEP, the Central Regional Office, has an incorrect email for us. I did not receive your file number. I did not know that you had received a file number, so okay. I haven't looked at those comments. I sent an email to Denise Childs today to rectify that. If you could forward me the file number info that you got so that I could read those comments sooner than later, that would be great.
Okay.
That's not your fault, obviously. That's just a disconnect we have with Mass DEP.
No.
The answer for Andy is no.
The answer for Andy is no. Could I see this in C2? Could I see a larger frame of reference? I'm looking at the GIS map and I'm trying to match up the plans. I know that you have a larger. You have this situated on Technology Drive, and I'm getting befuddled, which is not uncommon. But is there a map of showing the abutting properties? I guess.
Yeah. So let me start with this one, I guess. So this is Technology Drive. So that's where the frontage of the property is located. There is also 9 Technology Drive is to the west of the 5 Technology Drive site. So they have a driveway entry that comes into the front of their building and also to the side and rear of their building, right along our frontage. And Caruth, the property owner, has an access easement to that. So that's where that second driveway is tying into an existing driveway. And then there's the primary site access off of Technology Drive itself. Does that clear up sort of, and then this is 495 back here. I think, let me see if, man, there was no cover sheet on this. Let me see if I can toggle this up. This isn't much help here, but our site's over here, 9 Technology Drive's here. As you come along Technology Drive, you get back over.
Okay. Yeah, I got it now. I got it. Okay.
You got a hotel that borders
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I was expecting. Thank you. All right.
Andy, is your audio back up?
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
Andy is having difficulties. Do you want to drive until Andy can get back on? See if there are any more.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Do I have a motion? Are there any other discussion? Any other questions for the proponent? Can people hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, finally.
Are there any questions for the proponent that haven't been asked yet? If there aren't
I had questions about the whole entire project, but this was grandfathered in basically, right? So
that's my understanding. Is that Jordan, you can clarify, but did we not have a discussion with town council about this issue?
Yeah, we had a work session with the folks from 5 Technology Drive about maybe 2 months ago, and that was the consensus. I believe the commission agreed with that interpretation. Tim, as a motion, you'll want to continue at the request of the applicant to January 12th, because we're still waiting on a review by our engineering department. And as Mr. Feeney said, there's a number of comments that they have to go back to the drawing board on.
Oh, that's right, because of the adjustments from the DEP.
That's right.
Requests.
Yeah,
okay.
we haven't had a chance to review comments from the DEP yet.
Okay, in that case, I'd like to hear a motion from someone.
One quick question, Tim, before the motion. Dan,
sure.
On the north side again, there's those rectangular dash lines. Could you just identify those?
Yeah, those are parking spaces that are land bank parking spaces. So as part of the site plan approval, it was 385 parking spaces that would be built from the start, and 15 land bank parking spaces.
I'm not familiar with that concept. What's a land bank parking space, Dan?
You have as part of the approval from the planning board, you have the option to build them, but not the obligation.
Where's all the snow going to go for this parking area? That's huge.
Yeah, and that was one of Jordan's comments, and we'll address it. But certainly, there used to be a stormwater basin proposed down here as part of the original site plan review. Sort of along the western portion of the site, and we converted that into a subsurface basin because it really, the original design, that was really jammed in there and difficult to fit in that stormwater in that. But that does allow that area to be used for snow storage down there.
I would just be concerned because it seems like we get dumped on an awful lot, and that's a lot of volume of snow to try to put somewhere from that entire
it's a ton.
Parking lot at one time.
Can that be labeled there, Dan?
Yeah, it will be. When Jordan had submitted his comments, then we got the DEP comments. Jordan had recommended let's get the commission's comments as well, so that we're responding holistically to everything. And we are still waiting actually on comments from engineering as well for any of the stormwater review. So we certainly will add the snow storage to the plans.
Dan, can we go back to those land bank parking spaces for a minute? So these are spaces that you won't build initially, but could build at some future time and they become paved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a way to put a time frame on how long that option stays open?
I would think that that would be a possibility as one of the conditions of an order. It's something that I can talk about with the proponent and see, what they're comfortable with in terms of that.
Dan, this is Chris Egan. We're not interested in a time frame on that. It should be our option. It's our property. Why would you want to have an option on it, Gary?
Well, I'm concerned because aren't they right up against the vernal pool?
Well, be it as it may, Gary, it's a plan that we feel is pretty adequately designed. It's approved, and it's if our client wants more parking, we'd like to give it to them so they're happy and they stay in town. If our client doesn't want more parking, then let's keep it the way it is. It seems to be a win-win. Why let something that's a good thing, which is Caruth Capital, trying to keep things as open as possible for as long as possible? Why make that a bad thing and try to make an option to make it go away from us, in which case we'll just pave it now? You understand?
I have a question.
I'd like to finish this conversation.
You get where we're coming from? We want to do the right thing, but we also want to have control of it. You know what I mean? It's like the chicken and the egg.
I certainly do understand. I understand the business desire to maximize what you can get out of the property. I'm sure you also understand that the reason I'm asking the question is because my role is as an advocate for the environment, and that's an active vernal pool. And I mean, you've got a site plan that invades it significantly. Now you're right up against the edge of it. That little bit of green space represents environmental value. So that's the reason for the question. If your client needs the space when they first have it, that I understand that. I understand your right to have it. At the same time, if you get occupancy for the building and, they don't need that space, it would be nice to be able to sunset it because it's no longer a business and imperative.
But if we have to sunset it, we're going to have to pave it because we've been in town for 30 years. We'd like to keep things the way they are, but it's kind of like this. Don't let a good deed go on. I don't want a good deed to go unpunished. We're trying to do a good deed, and I feel like we're being punished by making it sunset. So if you play optionality, we're going to have to exercise our option to pave it in case someone 20 years from now wants that spot. So we're trying to do the right thing. Don't ask for something that forces our hand.
Yeah, I think that's covered by the grandfathering. I agree with you, Gary. It's a very sensitive area, but if that's been part of an approved site plan, I think we've lost the option on protecting that as much as we would like to do so. That's what I understand that the position was of the town council. Is that correct?
Somebody said something to the effect that
I acknowledged that. And the point I'm making to Chris is the reason for asking the question is as an advocate, not for the business side, which he is. So I understand his position. I understand that it is grandfathered. And I understand that if, we ask him to give that up, he'll simply say no, because that's what he's telling us.
That's what I hear. I don't know what leverage we have in this situation if it's been approved by other entities, and I guess that's where the DEP's questions are coming in. Is that right, Gary and Jordan? It's in that area. The DEP's concerns are all in this area on the northern boundary of the development.
Dan will have to speak to that. I have not seen the DEP comments.
Oh, okay. That's right. I'm sorry. That's right. You already said that. Yeah. Dan, where are you?
Yeah. So they're asking if the isolated vegetative wetland, which is also the vernal pool, is isolated land subject to flooding.
Okay.
We have a state jurisdictional buffer associated with it. We can run a calc to determine that. They're asking if they have a drainage question on whether the subsurface basins, will intercept seasonal high groundwater. And if so, whether that will compromise the volume of the basins. We have designed those basins with a subdrain so that any water that does bleed into it will be able to escape. So at the start of a storm, there's no water in the basins. They note that aerial photographs suggest that wetlands may have been filled on this lot in the past. So the applicant should evaluate that. We do have a valid order of conditions that's based on the wetlands there. Any wetland fill that would have taken place out here would have been a long time ago. Certainly before the original approval of this back in 2001 under a different applicant. So I'm not sure, what we can do about that now, 20 years later.
And just so I'm clear, the banked parking spaces seem to me, am I right that they're extending northward past the concrete barrier or concrete retaining wall?
Well, because if they weren't built from the start, there'd be a concrete barrier there to. So what
I'm saying is, sometime between now and when you actually build that wall, you'll make a decision about whether you're going to build the parking spots. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
because
I think
once you build the wall, doesn't that foreclose you from building parking spots there? Or am I missing?
No,
something?
you could relocate the wall and the light pole that's shown in that area. So, I think given today's real estate market, and I know Caruth has been through this on a number of other projects, they've needed more parking after the fact. We did.
Yeah, I've seen that. We've seen that.
118 Flanders Road, we recently permitted with both the commission and the planning board for a parking expansion. There's certain tenants out there who need more spaces than what is required by zoning, and it puts you in a position as a landlord and in a competitive marketplace to try to deliver what you can to tenants. So if it was a tenant who was going to walk away from the lease, if they couldn't get some more parking spaces, Caruth would make that decision whether it was worth it to them to put the extra money into the site work costs after the.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Mark?
Hi, thank you. To address Gary's concern, we're saying don't put us in a use it or lose it situation. As Chris said, we want to do the right thing. We're not going to build it. But if you take it away from us, it's going to be use it or lose it, right? Build it or it's gone. And we're doing the right thing. Don't force us to build something that may never be needed because we're going to lose it. Another point I would like to address is the DEP. So this project has been permitted since 2001. We've gone to the DEP many times, and including as recently as 2019. And now the DEP has all these new questions or whatever. And I'm curious as to, is someone from the board going to DEP and asking them to, change their view of this previously approved project that they have approved many times? I mean, nothing has really changed.
May I speak to that?
Yes.
I don't think that's an appropriate question because the board has never voted on it. The board has never voted to do that. So if you're asking that whether the board has approved approaching DEP, I can only answer no. But beyond that, if individuals have done that, they don't have to share that with us, and that's their private business. I haven't done it.
Right, but it's in a way, it's kind of circumventing our grandfathering, something that we asked for and received, and it's using the DEP to circumvent our rights, or
So Mark, I'll answer your question. I haven't gone to them. I don't even know who they are. But the grandfathering is from us,
Right.
not from them, is my understanding.
But
It's from town meeting.
the DEP is bringing things up that they never brought up before.
But
That we can't answer that.
To do with us.
Okay.
It's really not, it's beyond our authority. They, as you know, could issue superseding orders. Even if we signed off on this tonight, they would still be able to issue superseding orders. So, I mean, I think, and I don't know what their thinking is. And I haven't seen, Jordan hasn't seen them. I haven't seen them. So I don't even know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. But I think that if we want to have a fruitful discussion on this, it seems to me we should have all the information. And as long as our conservation agent doesn't have the information, we're working at a disadvantage. There's been a suggestion that we should continue this hearing until the next Conservation Commission meeting in January. Do we need any more discussion on this, or can we? Oh, Mr. Egan. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. It's just that time's important on these things. I would encourage the board and ask you if we can get all the paperwork wrapped up on our next meeting, so we can communicate that to the market that this land is moving.
I appreciate that. I think that would be a question that could be answered better by the technical people who really are managing the bureaucratic end of this, and that would be Jordan and Sherry, and they have to see what they have to see, and the town has to produce the engineering information that we need. So I don't know how we can say anything more than we'll act in good faith and try to get you a decision as promptly as we can. And if the information is available at the next meeting, I suppose it can be ready for voting. Again, I would defer to our experts on that.
Thank you.
Mr. Gary.
So the drainage from these proposed parking places that may or may not be built, how would sheet flow drain off of those? And my concern, again, is the use of salt in a parking lot. I really don't want that stuff that close to the vernal pool. So I'll bring that up now so that maybe that can be addressed. Maybe it's an order of conditions or something.
I think
I mean, everything would be curbed out there, so it would be directed to deep sump-hooded catch basins that would go through water quality structures before going into the subsurface detention basin. So nothing would flow from any of the developed area towards the vernal pool. Everything is being discharged either into the municipal drainage system or upgrading of the wetlands on the southern side of the building. Nothing being discharged on the northern side of the building.
Yeah.
So Dan, that you're telling us there's for the existing condition. I'm sorry, for the proposed, exclusive of the grandfathered spots, everything is curbed. The perimeter is curbed.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, again, just so I'm clear, there's going to be a curb built there unless you have a tenant who says we want those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, 20, 18 spaces, 17 spaces. There will be a curb there when it's constructed, all around the building. I mean, all of this is a curbed area.
Yes.
To the north.
And if those spaces are built, there'll be a curb along the backside of the spaces.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
So wherever the limit of pavement is, there'll be a curb there.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, Tim, can you hear me?
Oh, you're back, Andy. I surrender the floor to Andy.
Yeah, for now, until my system craps out of me again. This is the only venue where it happens. Anyway, I'm sorry I missed some of the discussion, but I want to go back technical discussion regarding the subsurface detention system.
Yes.
Okay. You said the soils on site are not suitable for infiltration. So what is happening with the discharge that goes to the detention system? Does it stay there? Does it overflow into the municipal system? I don't quite get it.
Yeah, so it acts as a detention basin and not a retention basin.
Okay.
So the outflow from the systems, so the one to the west of the building, down closest to Technology Drive, will flow into the municipal system, matching peak flow rates from existing conditions. So there is a portion of the site that flows that way under existing conditions, so that the discharge from proposed conditions won't be any higher than under existing conditions. And the same thing, the system that's to the south of the building has an outlet control structure from it that will limit the flows to that which exists under existing conditions on the site to the bordering vegetative wetland. So it'll discharge up gradient of the wetland through riprap and then flow into the wetlands, as is typical with any system. The difference with this one is there just won't be any infiltration component to it. The soils on site are mapped as D soils, which have basically no infiltrative capacity. If you tried to infiltrate, you just end up with water in your chambers. So whether you had an open basin chambers, it would just be water in there. The soils won't let it infiltrate in, won't let it perk into the soils.
It's clay, correct?
Yep. It's tight soils out there.
Okay. Is there any other discussion, questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to continue the notice of intent hearing for 5 Tech LLC, map 36, parcel 17, 5 Technology Drive, at the request of the applicant until January 12th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Stephanie gets it first.
Yeah, I was waiting for you, Tim.
All right. I'm back.
Okay, second.
Second. Yeah.
Oh, Kelly beat you.
Yeah, I know. It's okay.
Roll call vote. Andy Kenningsburg, yes. Tim Buckaloo?
Yes.
Stephanie Kelly?
Yes.
Justin Lundberg?
Yes.
Gary Kessler?
Yes.
Gary Cushing?
Yes.
Kelly Marston?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, guys. We'll see you
Next month.
for this one in January. But for the next one, okay, so the next item on the agenda is notice of intent for West Park 2100 LLC West Park Drive extension. I take it there's no file number for this yet either?
We still have screen sharing from Dan.
Yeah, that's Jordan. Do we not have a DEP file number on this yet?
I don't know. We have not received one in my office, but Dan may tell you differently since he received one for 5 Tech.
Yeah, we have not received a file number on this one. This one was submitted after the 5 Tech one. So, I'm not surprised that there's no file number on this one yet.
Okay, I'm hearing some background noise from somebody. If you're not active, could you please mute? Okay.
Somebody with children.
Silence. All right. So, Dan, the floor is yours again.
All right, let me try sharing my screen again here. Alrighty. Okay, so West Park Drive extension. So we have again met informally with the commission. It's been a while. I think we were last in front of the commission during the preliminary plan process for this. We've now filed a definitive subdivision plan with the planning board. And that's also the time where we would want to file a notice of intent with the Conservation Commission. So we have filed a notice of intent. So what this project does, if everyone's familiar with West Park Drive, it currently ends in a dead end, approximately 2,000 feet or so from Flanders Road. There is a driveway that comes down to 2200 West Park Drive. but there's no connection all the way through. So in order to provide for better traffic circulation, better public safety, and make the development within Westpac Drive more marketable, we're proposing to extend Westpac Drive within the same footprint at first of the driveway that comes down to 2200 Westpac Drive, and then it veers off because the driveway alignment wouldn't meet definitive subdivision regulations. It's fine for a driveway, but not for a roadway. So it will come down and then come back around and basically run through the Washington Lane right-of-way down to Flanders Road. So there's an abutter 134 Flanders Road to the east of where the roadway ties in. And then there is also, I should note, work being proposed in Flanders Road to provide improvements along Flanders Road. So that work is also part of the notice of intent as well. It's in buffer zone down there, as well as we'll get into kind of some of these specific wetland impacts associated with the project. But one last thing that's part of the project is there is a proposed trail. It's part of the B-Wall Trail, the Boston Worcester Airline Trail, that will run adjacent to the roadway from Flanders Road. It goes on the eastern side of the roadway until it gets beyond the 134 Flanders Road property, and then it switched to the western side, and then it will come cross country in the old Shell oil easement. It used to, the B-Wall Trail will in the future continue down through the 118 Flanders Road site. This is 118 Flanders Road here. But for now, we're going to connect a trail system to the B-Wall Trail from basically the end of the cul-de-sac up here. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, it'd be great to have the park employees have access to the trail system, but it also does double as the subdivision sidewalk, the subdivision roadway sidewalk. It's going to be a trail system for a sidewalk out there. So starting at the northern end, there is the existing 2200 Westpac Drive driveway crosses a wetland system in here. And it's a little hard to see at this scale, but what we're doing in here is we have to widen the roadway. The driveway is not wide enough. The driveway is currently 24 feet wide. We need to get up to 28 feet wide, which is a waiver that we got from the planning board during the preliminary subdivision process. Typically, they would look for 36 feet wide for a industrial subdivision roadway. But in order to mitigate the impacts from a widening here, going from 24 to 28, we can do it within the existing footprint of the wetland crossing. So the sidewalk that's part of the wetland crossing will become part of the roadway. So the roadway will go from 24 to 28, but it's in the footprint. So we'll be disturbing areas above grade of the wetland crossing, but there's no further wetland impacts associated with this section of the roadway up here. And then as we come down, there is buffer zone work associated with the roadway. In particular, detention basin number 1 is in close proximity to the wetland. Again, we need the basin there to control the additional impervious area being created by the roadway. There's another basin further down the roadway that is in proximity to a larger wetland system that's on the 118 Flanders Road property down here. For those that are familiar with the area, that wetland goes through a V-notch weir down here that's visible from Flanders Road, and then goes out underneath Flanders Road and eventually down to the Cedar Swamp. The last, or no, sorry, not the last, but the other wetland impact, this rounding down here, in order to get the necessary turning radius for vehicles to make a right turn out onto Flanders Road, there is a small area of wetland fill down here. It's previously disturbed wetland. Again, it's on the other side of the V-notch weir. So it's the drainage ditch that takes it to a head wall. for the pipe to go under. So that's about 330 square feet of wetland fill associated with that. The other area of wetland, and let me see if I can zoom in on this a little bit because it's really hard to see. The trail, again, we looked at different options to get the trail from, south of the wetland to north of the wetland. And this was one of the things we had discussed with the Conservation Commission during some of the preliminary meetings. It would be much more of an impact, even if we did a boardwalk to come through the wetlands here. So what we looked at was taking the trail around the wetlands. There is a skinny wetland ditch immediately adjacent to the Shell oil easement that we can put a pedestrian bridge over here to avoid any wetland fill in there. And then we would propose all of the wetland replication. It's about 650 square feet or 700 square feet up in this area right here. Again, we looked at doing it down closer to the major wetland impact, or I say major, the bigger of the two down here, but you would do more harm than good down in this area. There's more grade change. There's some vegetation down in there. And we are within the 20-foot no-touch zone all along here. Again, we're limited with our right-of-way width in here. We have the wetlands on one side and our abutting property on the other side, and their development is actually fairly tight to their property line over here, their parking lot and their building over here. They also have a septic system over in this area as well. So we've tried to design it to minimize the impacts to the wetland. We have tried to, again, stormwater, because it goes to the Cedar Swamp, which is a critical area. Everything gets treated to the 1-inch level prior to discharge. We have coordinated with the planning board on this. I don't know if the Conservation Commission is aware. They are going to engage a peer review consultant. So on-site engineering will be doing sort of stormwater, utilities, things like that. They also have a traffic peer reviewer, but so I would suspect that the commission can utilize their review as well. They have not started their peer review. Again, this was just submitted right before Thanksgiving. So we're anticipating this week to get their peer review scope and to have that funded to get them going on a peer review. So that's sort of an overview of the project. I know most people on the commission are at least somewhat familiar as we came in with the preliminary plan on an informal basis, but we've done our best to try to minimize any wetland or buffer zone disturbances to the extent practical.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, Dan, would you be building the trail as part of this project?
Yeah, so they'll be built in similar timeframes, I would imagine, but it is actually going to be two separate projects. At least the trail as it exists coming up from Flanders Road and going down the Shell oil easement. That's part of, I forgot to mention this, the town did receive a MassWorks grant. And the MassWorks grant covers the Flanders Road improvements as well as the B-Wall Trail. So the portion of the trail that's going to be part of the town's, it's going to be under the town's going to have an easement for the trail. So from this point all the way down to Flanders Road, that would be, under town control through an easement. So it makes it a little bit, different. It could be different contractors building the roadway as opposed to that section of the trail. Because one has to go through the public procurement process as part of the MassWorks grant. The other one, would be on the applicant. Obviously it's the applicant who's building and funding the roadway improvements out here.
So to be clear, as part of your project here that we're talking about tonight is simply an easement. We're not.
We're permitting it all. Yeah, we're permitting it all because even though the town got a MassWorks grant for the work, the notice of intent includes both the Flanders Road roadway improvements as well as the trail improvements. And that's, you know, and the applicant's funding, you know, the design and permitting of all that. The grant that they got from the MassWorks program is for the construction of it.
All right, so how wide is that trail?
I believe it's 10 feet now. You know,
And what's the surface of the trail supposed to be when it's built?
it's proposed to be stone dust.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, on the plans, I thought it showed 8 feet.
It might be 8 feet in one area, then widen to 10, but yeah, I think we have very real space limitations, especially until we get by the 134 Flanders Road property.
Yeah.
You know, even with the town reducing the width of the roadway requirement, you know, we're still jammed up space-wise down there.
Yeah, I'd like to go back up and look at what the trail layout is on lot 2400A. So scrolling up there, I do see that you have some constraints with the vernal pool. I take it you're going to ask for a variance on that because you're going over, the trail is going within the 125-foot buffer zone, that's correct? Or you
That's
can ask for a
correct.
waiver?
Yeah, we'll need a waiver from that and also from the 20-foot no-touch zone in some other places.
Yeah, this is the question I have with this is why are you having the trail hug the 20-foot no-touch zone? I mean, as a bike rider, that looks like a slalom. And I think that, and I've mentioned this before, and I don't know why you guys didn't change it, that there could be, you could have that trail have less zigzagging and move it away from hugging the 20-foot no-touch zone or the distance you have. And I was wondering why you guys opted to stay with the design as is.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you've got no touch areas on both sides, right?
Right.
And they overlap. So you're in one or the other.
No, I understand the need for asking for a waiver from the 125 foot, but you have, you know, going into this area, you have it going as you approach the vernal pool buffer, you have it zigzagging and hugging the no-touch zone. And then afterwards, you continue to have it hugging the no-touch zone and making the trail, as far as I'm concerned, unnecessarily complicated. And I thought you could have the geometry not be so close to the no-touch zone and the wetlands edge and still have a decent bike trail. So I just totally confused why you chose this particular alignment. I mean, like I said, you could have it a little bit straighter, not any more of an encroachment on the 125-foot vernal pool buffer. And I was just, again, explain to me why you chose to do it the way you did.
Yeah, so this is also, you know, this is an existing lot out here.
Right.
Undeveloped that you know, could be developed in the future. So, you know, to put a trail that comes sort of, you know, through the heart of that would basically eliminate the ability to do that in the future. I mean, you know, we could look at the alignment through here and pull it a little bit further off the wetland.
You can really fit another development in on that lot?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you know, it wouldn't be an office building per se, but there could be something that could go in there.
Okay. And how about south of that?
Yeah. We are talking to someone about that lot, by the way.
Which one?
The where it says erosion control barrier.
Okay. And how about south of that? The next lot
here?
Yeah.
No, because
2,300 and 2,100.
we tried to have access to that, but because of the, it's not a certified vernal pool, right? It's a potential vernal pool. And the wetlands, we can't access that dry where where it says erosion control barrier down below.
Yeah.
We did try to keep access to that, but we gave up on that.
Right.
But we didn't want to lose the upper portion. And
I understand that, Chris, but you could still pull the trail away from the edge of I mean, you could run right up through the middle of it and not have to have the trail so close to the wetlands edge. That's my opinion. I don't know what other people on the board think.
I mean, by abandoning the original plan for the boardwalk,
yeah,
this is adding quite a few linear feet to the project.
Yeah,
and also I think a lot of this might change when we get on the ground because you have outcrops and trees that you might want to keep. So I think when we put this in, we might want some flexibility, and I think that the Conservation Commission might want that as well.
Well, I'm saying, well, yeah, as far as flexibility is concerned, you could straighten that out a little bit and not have it so close to the wetland, unless there's some real impediments there, from rock outcrops or whatever. Like I said, I just want to understand why you did it the way you did.
Or, given that the use is going to be a stone dust trail, if we wanted to straighten it out, why couldn't we go closer to the wetlands without impact if it doesn't impact them?
Well, I was talking about pulling it away from the wetlands a little bit so you'd have somewhat of a straight trail, but that's my question. Why you chose to have it hugging the wetlands line as much as you did when you could have had it further away. That's all.
I mean, the quick answer is we wanted to minimize the trail's impact on developable land. Okay, and in that lower area, do you suspect that there's going to be developable land there? We always like to keep that opportunity, but the quick answer is probably not. Could we use it as parking and access it from, provide parking for 118 Flanders Road? We can't really access it from the north or from the east. But maybe from the west. Okay, I understand that.
So let us take a look at that, Andy, and see. We also just have to be cognizant of the topo out there. And whatnot. But let us take a look at it. We hear what your comments are.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I understand your reasoning for doing it the way you did now when I didn't before. So, I could see how maybe you could shoehorn a parking lot in there somehow.
And like I said, I forget, did I walk it with you, Dan? But I walked it, and a couple of times I said, geez, there's a big outcrop here, or there's a knoll. It's probably easier to go around it than start blasting an outcrop to stick to the exact trail.
Yeah. Listen, you can't tell that from this diagram, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah, I was curious as to why those formations aren't on this plan. I would think if you're trying to show us a plan where a path is going to go, you'd show us the obstructions as well, or potential obstructions, the trees that you might want to keep, the bedrock outcrops that there might be. So how do we know that this path is even close to where it's going to end up?
I mean, I think, that was part of the reason too, to show it, closer to the wetland so that if it had to swing out a little bit to avoid something, the work would be further away than was permitted, not closer than permitted. But,
Yeah, but how do we know that if those formations aren't identified on the map? How do we know where they are?
Yeah, we'll take a look and see if there's significant trees in the area, because there's going to need to be some clearing anyway. It is a wooded area. But, so they're, on the actual plans, this is just a colorized version. There is like tree lines that are shown, but.
Yeah, the bedrock outcrops, those would be good to have on there so that we have an idea of how you might have to navigate around those.
We can certainly supplement this. We have all the wetland flags out there to use as a marker to tape in, any significant impediments that are out in this area.
I have a copy of the plans open on my computer, and I do see a marker in the detailed plans where it says dense trees in the area. So,
yeah.
But understanding that better would be helpful.
Okay.
So are we permitting this part of the trail as part of this plan? I know we were permitting the other part of the trail that we spoke about earlier.
Yes.
So we're creating a proposed easement for the town over this specific path?
So this section of the trail would not be part of the B-Wall trail. So it would not be in an easement to the town. Everything except this section of the trail would be part of the B-Wall. So picking up here and heading east and then all the way south to Flanders Road is part of the B-Wall, because the B-Wall, it's going to come eventually through the 118 Flanders Road, through the Sudbury Valley Trustees property, through some other, so it's heading in an east-west direction. And this is just to get it down to Flanders Road, where it'll be along Flanders Road before it connects back up through and eventually gets back on the Shell Oil easement, I believe, on the eastern side of 495.
All right, so the part of the trail that's along the wetlands we've been talking about, that's really for the folks working in this area.
Yeah, that's for them. That's for them to get down to the B-Wall trail. Yeah.
And again, is this formally part of the plan that's being approved, or is this something? I mean, if you need to move this, are you planning to come back to us and talk about that? How's this work?
Well, we're here to get comments tonight. We don't expect, obviously, to close this hearing tonight. We haven't, again, the peer reviewer engineers haven't even been engaged by the town yet. We don't even have scopes from the peer review engineers. So you guys are going to want to wait,
I
would assume, until you have those comments so that you can, make sure all the stormwater's okay. We got to reply. Jordan did email us comments. We got to reply to those. So again, we don't even have actually a DEP file number, so you can't close it anyway. But we're just trying to get all the comments. But yes, everything is part of this notice of intent, whether it's part of the Mass Grants project, which is the Flanders Road intersection work. It includes, I didn't mention it, includes a traffic light down there. There would be a traffic light at Flanders Road and Westpac Drive extension. All that work, as well as the subdivision roadway and the trail, whether it's part of the B-Wall or not, is part of the definitive subdivision application and the corresponding notice of intent application with the Conservation Commission.
Yeah. Okay. And also to address an earlier question, the town's portion of the work is separate from our road, and it also, in accordance with the MassWorks grant, has to be completed within 3 years. So that we have to enter into a contract within 6 months of the grant. Well, the town has to enter into a contract with 6 months of the grant, and it has to be completed within 3 years of the grant. And that includes the intersection, the traffic signal, and the B-Wall portion of the trail, which the town will have a permanent easement on.
Thanks for that, Mark.
Going down and looking at the basin, let me pull that up.
Which one? The
basin one. Yeah, that one. Okay. I was trying to think regarding that. I don't have my local regulations memorized. I apologize. But as far as the proximity, you got that going right up to the wetlands edge. And is there a reason why you couldn't change the geometry a little bit? Extend it to the southwest a little bit and to the north a little bit so that you can pull it back, keep the same volume, but pull it back to better match the limits of work that we established in the regulations. Are you going to be asking for a waiver there?
Yeah, we are. We're battling the elevations through here, and that impacts where the groundwater is. So, it climbs as you come around the corner here. Obviously, you got like a knoll here, and then this is the lowest point. And so we're trying to get as much of this roadway into it as we can. We're sort of tied to the grades out here again, because you have 2200 West Park Drive that we have to, match the grades, where the old driveway used to come in to that. So it'll have new driveways off of the revised roadway here, but we have to live with those grades. We can't keep chasing them throughout the site. So it sort of forced this basin to be in here. These basins, again, we're trying to control the runoff as much as we can, trying to not just match the peak flow rates, but, infiltrate as well. So they get a little bit bigger than would be ideal,
So
we can take a look at if we can sacrifice any of the volume and pull this berm a little bit further.
What I was thinking about, you could make it narrower and longer unless the groundwater table elevations don't permit for that.
Yeah, so in glacial till soils, you typically find that the groundwater is parallel to the surface elevations, basically, because it hits the, so like if you keep extending it here, you are coming up in grade.
Okay.
This way you're coming up in grade, right? You get this 314 existing contour, where the basin is, and then you've got, 316 and 316 and 316 is any which way you go from it.
Yeah.
Sort of climbing up. So
you're looking at a bottom of the basin, looking at from the diagram at about 315.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Okay. And groundwater's what, 2 feet below that, you expect, or?
Yeah, it's right about that 2 foot mark. I'd have to look. We did the test pits out there a little while back. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, we basically, again, it's an interesting topography out there, because this area here isn't much higher than the wetland elevation. We have very little relief, as we get out of the wetland all along here. And there are sections of this parking lot that are actually lower than that. They're down at like 309, 310 down in here.
The wetland may be perched on the till.
It's exactly. It's that's why it's a finger coming out.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from the board on this? Okay. Hearing none, I need a motion to continue the notice of intent hearing for West Park Drive 2100 LLC, West Park Drive extension, at the request of the applicant to January 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Like, second?
I seconded and somebody else did too, so.
Okay, well, you're first. Okay, roll call vote. Andy Kenningsberg, yes. Tim Buckaloo?
Yes.
Stephanie Kelly?
Yes.
Justin Lundberg?
Yes.
Gary Kessler?
Yes.
Jerry Cushing? Gary? Is he waving? Is he
Don't
still
see
there?
him.
I see him.
That's a yes. Yes.
Oh, there he is.
Okay,
He's mute.
don't go to sleep yet. Okay, Kelly Marston? She waving? I can't see the image at the moment.
She's blacked out.
Well,
And muted.
Kelly, you there? Okay. Dan, can you unshare the screen? Okay. Kelly is.
I'm here. It was all frozen up. Can you hear me now?
I can. How vote you?
Yes.
Okay.
I vote yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see.
And
you all
I have to go pick up the daughter.
Dan, can you send me a request to continue for both those projects just for our records?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And, all right. Let me get all my. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for Paul Gillen, map 4, parcel 108, 1 Garfield Drive. Is there a, does this have a legal notice or is it just the notices of intent?
No, it does have a legal notice. I stuck it in that folder. You should see it there.
Okay, bear with me. And I just have to get back to, let's see, 1 Garfield Drive. Okay, add, okay. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Westborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Westborough Conservation Commission will conduct a virtual public hearing held on December 8th, 2020 at 7:15 p.m. Remote meeting participation instructions are posted at the Conservation Commission webpage at the Town of Westborough website. The commission will consider a request for determination of applicability filed by Paul Gillen for the removal of a deck and installation of a 3-season porch located at 1 Garfield Drive, Westborough. Okay.
Andy, I don't see a representative for this project on the attendees list.
Yeah.
The homeowner, we assumed was going to attend and speak on behalf of the project, but I can do it for him.
All right.
Truthfully, this probably would have been handled as an administrative approval before I started, but he's converting a deck into a 3-season porch with a roof. And it doesn't quite fit the definition of our exemption for decks. It is within your jurisdiction. It's in the very outer buffer zone. And so the applicant was interested in filing a request for determination of applicability. There's not much to say about this. It's a very straightforward project. I would work with the applicant to make sure erosion sedimentation controls are installed. Sherry and I did have a question for the applicant on whether or not there'll be drains and where that water goes. I'm going to just share my screen so that you can see the, just give me 1 second here so that you can see the drawings that were submitted. You can see that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yep.
So that's what we're looking at, and because we're going from a deck with slats to a surface to a structure with an impervious roof, there will be some change to drainage. Again, this is in the outer 50. It's in fact it's closer to the 100-foot buffer than the 50-foot buffer, so it's way out there. Let me just show you one other, just so you have a sense for what we're looking at. I just want to bring up, this property had a plan filed back a long time ago. It's file number 322, I believe. And you can just see, this is the edge of the bordering vegetated wetland. This is the house there. So we're, you know, we're definitely within jurisdiction. So again, without the applicant being here to speak on behalf of his own project, Andy, I gave you 2 motions. You have the option to continue if you want. Personally, I would recommend that you issue a -3 determination with special conditions, and that you just instruct me to work with the applicant to make sure there are proper environmental controls.
Okay. A question I have is this 3-season porch in the same footprint as the deck?
Virtually. Yeah, virtually it is. I believe, let me bring up the, let me just quickly bring up the request for determination of applicability. They're going from a 14 by 18 deck to a 16 by 18 deck. Same location, I think just 2 feet closer to the wetland.
Okay.
It has a pitched roof, though, a flat pitched roof, so it's impervious, but the drainage is all going to go towards the wetlands, unless there's some other model that I'm not seeing, right?
No, yeah, that's the way that we look at it too.
They don't have. I didn't see on the rendering that there were any downspouts or drain pipes or anything. So they're just no gutters, no, just water dumping off of the back and onto that little. That's
correct.
Okay.
That's correct, Tim. You know, if that could be an issue, and so in fact, it's good to go through this process with them as opposed to an administrative approval. If you looked at the review that Sherry and I did for this project, that is a question: is where is the runoff from the roof going? Is it going to be infiltrated on site? There's nothing to indicate in the plan where that water's going.
Bad planning. It's bad building practices. You're going to end up with ice dams all over the place.
What's that?
It's an existing screened-in area, so it has a roof?
The existing just has nothing. The existing is a deck. What they're proposing is what they're proposing is a 3-season structure, and you know, in an unheated enclosed area.
Unheated.
But if you, I assume 3 by 3 season, but it's not insulated. There may have some heating element in there. But
then they don't have to worry about ice dams. They don't have to worry about any of that. I was under the impression that it was going to be occupied and be insulated and heated. It's going to be a 2-season in there.
Yeah, I don't see that level of detail on their plan. So, you know, again, I'm personally comfortable with it, but again, you're the commission. So, you know, if you would like to continue and we can get the applicant in front of you in January, they're not building right now anyway, obviously. So I think, you know, the applicant just wants direction from you and wants to do the right thing.
I also would like to hear what's going to happen to the water coming off the roof. So I would like to see a continuance so that we can hear that.
Can you see the plan again, Jordan?
Yeah. Give me
or the rendering. I know it's not a plan. They don't really.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just go to here. So
there is a plan document, or actually.
Okay.
If you scroll down, there's a plan. There you go.
But see, what I see is the water coming from off of the house, one whole side of the house, down to that.
Onto the porch, the steps. So he's going to have some collection capability there.
Yeah.
On the steps.
Because it's going to drain right onto the porch and steps. The stairway.
But if there's existing drainage control or runoff control for the existing house, that's not shown here either. And you could be taking all of the water off of, you know, a quarter of the roof, dumping it onto this flat roof, and then that. So it's really compounded, I think. It could be compounded. I hope they thought about it. You see what I'm saying? You're picking up all of this. If you go to the.
He's going to have a downspout
somewhere.
one end or the other
Yeah.
of the low point of the roof. He has to.
You want me to zoom in on a particular rendering here, Tim? Or
Yeah, it's the rendering that is that one, where your hand is. Yep, that's
Okay.
it. So you
Yeah.
see, what I'm saying is you're picking up all of the drainage off of the main house, this small overhang, and it's all going to end up right on top of here because this extends out from the shadow of the house. I don't know. I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
Well, unless he puts gutters on the main house to
Yeah,
divert
it
the
could
main
be.
roof away
Alright,
from
so-
the porch roof.
It's just not shown. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. I don't think you design it that way. I think he must have gutters somewhere. That doesn't make sense.
Worthwhile question to get answered.
Yeah,
indeed. Well, I'm happy to, let me stop sharing here. I'm happy to communicate with the applicant and, you know, if you're going to motion to continue, to make sure that he's on this meeting on January 12th to answer your questions. And, you know, I'll relay to him the main concern is drainage, and so that they can solve that, or at least have an answer for that before he comes back before you in January.
Okay. So I'm going to change this to continue. Okay.
It should be another option there on the motion for you. I thought I gave you two.
You did for the Lyman Street extension.
Oh, right.
That's
very good.
I'll let it go this time, Jordan. Okay. All right. So I need a motion to continue the request for determination of applicability for Paul Gillen, map 4, parcel 108, Garfield Drive.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Andrew Kenningsberg, yes. Tim Buckaloo,
Yes.
Stephanie Kelly,
Yes.
Justin Lundberg,
Yes.
Gary Kessler,
Yes.
Jerry Cushing,
Yes.
Kelly Marston. I think she went away.
She's muted too.
Yeah, I saw her get up before, so I was, no.
That just said something about having to pick up her daughter.
Okay. Well, I'll just mark her absent for this one. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is, okay, request for determination of applicability, Town of Westborough, Lyman Street right-of-way. Let me find the notice.
I'm just letting in the representatives for that project.
Okay, and Lyman Street right-of-way. Let's see, which one of these? Okay, legal notice reads as follows. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Westborough Wetlands Bylaw, the Westborough Conservation Commission will conduct a virtual public hearing held on December 8th, 2020 at 7:20 p.m. Remote participation, participants' instructions are posted at the Conservation Commission webpage. The commission will consider a request for determination of applicability filed by Pulte Homes of New England, LLC, for the installation of a sidewalk within the right-of-way on Lyman Street in Westborough. Okay, will the representative for that project take the floor?
Yes, good evening. Just for the record, my name is Nathan Mahonen with Bowler, on with Mark Mastriani from Pulte Homes, as well as I believe I see Chris Piant from the Town of Westborough, DPW is on as well this evening. We're here tonight on behalf of the Town of Westborough for the RDA request for the Lyman Street sidewalk extension. I'm going to share a graphic here just shortly showing the overview of what the sidewalk extension looks like. It's an aerial. The route for the sidewalk extension is shown in red, where there's a couple of markers of the start and end location, which we'll go through in more detail in a moment here. But detailed construction drawings for the proposed sidewalk have been submitted, along with the RDA application showing the route for the walk, along with proposed locations, grading, and construction details for the town's review. The walk will extend from the existing sidewalk that was just recently upgraded at the end of Lyman Street by Route 9. Will connect and follow along the western side of Lyman Street, continue with the existing crossing at the beach to the parking area with the pickleball courts, then continue along the northern side, cross back over and connect over to the sidewalk up over by the Hadley building. The construction of this walk is required as part of the previous approvals that were issued for the Del Webb Chauncey Lake project several years ago. The work is technically within the existing right-of-way for Lyman Street, so the town of Westborough is the owner for the project, but Pulte Homes has been preparing the design plans and will be constructing the walk on behalf of the town of Westborough. The walk construction itself will follow the existing edge of pavement within the right-of-way, and it will consist of replacing the existing curb that's there and constructing a new sidewalk on the back side of the curb to provide the connection that we just went through and outlined. There are wetlands on both the, just move this out of the way here, both the eastern and western side of Lyman Street, and these locations here that were delineated by SWCA Environmental back in October 2018 and are shown on the submitted design plans. Both wetland systems do also have an associated flood zone A that are on both sides of the road, and they are interconnected by a culvert that goes underneath Lyman Street. That is also shown on the submitted design plans. There is no established FEMA flood elevation with it, so it is an unmapped flood A, but based upon FEMA mapping, it does generally follow the limits to the wetland system as it borders the edge of the roadway. The construction of the walk will involve approximately 1,000 linear feet of new sidewalk within the buffer zone from approximately this location here till you get down to the beach crossing in this area over here. So this section is within the buffer zone for the BVW. All work is within the existing right-of-way, as I noted, and it's all within previously disturbed areas of the right-of-way. It all can be constructed within the existing shoulder that's there, which is basically grassed and mowed and free of vegetation for the most part, other than the grassed area, until you get down closer to the beach. Then you start to get some pavement and some so forth that was installed for the construction of this facility down here. There will be no direct alteration to the BVW, nor any direct impact to the floodplain. And the plans do outline erosion and sedimentation controls, which are consistent of 12-inch straw wattles and silt fence along the limits of work to prevent migration of silt and sediment into the adjacent wetlands. And we are also proposing the installation of silt sacks into the existing catch basins within the road to help protect those as well. Relative to the local bylaw, it does outline 6 requirements for the RDA. We did touch on each one of those in the application. I just wanted to go through each of those here individually quickly for the commission members to kind of outline what was in there. The first item is relative to alteration within the buffer zone being less than 5,000 square feet or 10% of the buffer zone. As I talked about and noted before, all the alteration within the buffer zone is in the existing shoulder, which has been previously disturbed as part of the construction for the roadway, and there's no new alteration to the buffer zone. Second item is at a minimum of 50-foot wide area of undisturbed vegetation in the buffer zone along the resource area is to be provided. Again, there is no natural buffer vegetation there. You have the shoulder for the roadway, and then basically a side slope to the wetland based upon the proximity of the wetlands. All work is going to be maintained, or excuse me, is going to be done within the maintained right-of-way for the roadway, and there's no new alteration to the remaining, limited amount of vegetation that's between the road and the wetland system. Stormwater is managed in accordance to standards established by the DEP. For the purpose of this project is considered a redevelopment as part of the WPA under the section that talks about expansion or improvement to existing roadways. The WPA does also state that stormwater management standards shall apply to the maximum extent practicable for bike paths, footpaths, and other paths for pedestrian or motorized vehicles as part of that redevelopment provision. That language is also echoed in the Stormwater Management Handbook. And we can look at it in a little more detail on the detailed design plans as we go through. But if you've looked at it and you've been out there on the site, you can see that there's really very minimal room within the existing right-of-way between the two wetland systems and the roadway that's there to do any sort of stormwater improvements to that area. It's very tight, and there's very little topographic change between the roadway and the wetland system to implement anything beyond what's out there currently today. Further, it's anticipated that the sidewalk will result in a minimal increase in impervious area to the watershed that actually contributes to those wetlands, and that it wouldn't create a tangible change in the total runoff generated by the roadway and the total associated watershed that drains to the wetland systems. The fourth and fifth are relative to the buffer zone not bordering on an ORW or not containing estimated wildlife habitat. Based upon Mass GIS online information, buffer zones don't contain either ORW or wetland habitat, or excuse me, wildlife habitat or rare habitat. And the last one is relative to erosion sediment controls are provided along the limit of work. Again, we're doing straw wattles, silt fence, and silt sacks for erosion control in those areas. So proper erosion controls have been specified on the plans. As part of the filing, we were requested to file a waiver from the 20-foot to 50-foot no disturbance buffer portions of the regulations for this particular project. Again, justification for the waiver is that essentially this whole stretch of wetland or roadway and sidewalk in here is entirely within the buffer, and that the right-of-way edge and shoulder on either side of the road, no matter which side you constructed it on, would be within that 20 to 50 foot no disturbance portions. So in order to construct the sidewalk, we would need relief from that provision of the local bylaw. Again, work is within previously disturbed areas of the right-of-way, and the work itself is expected to generate really minimal earthwork and potential for silt and sediment runoff. It's pulling up some curb, a little bit of shoulder, and installing a new 5-foot wide sidewalk. So there's very little earthwork involved as part of it, so very little sediment load expected. In addition to that, we did have a pre-filing site walk with the agent, and we did verbally agree with him on site to work with him on a pre-construction site walk for the project and making sure that there's proper conditions for erosion control and that those erosion controls are maintained throughout construction. And based upon everything that we presented tonight and everything that we presented in the application that was submitted to the commission, feel that there's minimal impacts to the resource areas, and the project could be permitted under negative determination with those limited provisions of working with the agent prior to construction and the erosion controls. With that, I'm happy to turn it over to the commission for any questions or comments. And in advance, we appreciate everybody's time this evening for being here for our consideration.
My only question is why you couldn't have the sidewalk be on the same side of the street.
Carrying it down the eastern side the whole way?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did walk this entire length of site quite a few times, going back to the original permitting for the project. And this was the best route that was established with the town relative to impacts the buffer zone, safety for pedestrians, and general construction of the project. If you look at it on the other side, there's the wetlands, the outermost edge closest to the walk consists of more of a drainage channel shape that's there. And it's a lot closer to the road than the other side. And it's very much of a reduced shoulder. You really have about a foot or two before it starts sloping off and down to the wetlands. So there'd be more construction, a little bit more earthwork that would be required on the other road. Whereas on the western side where we have it, it's a really defined, flat, wider shoulder.
I was thinking that it would be better to have the whole entire thing on the western side of the road.
So once you get up here, it's outside of the buffer on this portion. This crossover and crossback has been reviewed extensively with the DPW and the town of Westborough, and it was decided that this was the best route to go once you get up past the beach. And there were several factors that went into it. We walked it several times with the DPW, with the neighbors, other folks at the town, and that was where it ultimately landed.
So maybe DPW could talk about, in particular, the cross back just before the Hatch building, wondering why that crossing.
You talking up here?
Yes.
Yeah, again, once you get past the beach, everything that's up here is outside of the buffer zone and Concom jurisdiction. But again, we must have walked this stretch of road 5 or 6 times with folks from the town, different representatives, and the crossing here and then the crossing back was determined to be the best route to work with what the town was needing, what the neighbors were looking for, and what was ultimately required under the original approvals.
So I understand all of that. I also understand that DPW is on the call, at least they were at the beginning of this. And so maybe they could speak to that with a little bit more information.
Yeah, it's Chris. So what's your specific question?
My question actually has to do with the cross back just before the Hatch property. Why that street crossing? I think I actually do understand the one down by the beach.
So the location for that crossing is based on a couple of things. One, it's what we think is the safest location in terms of line of sight. And then if you go north of that, where that red dot is right now on the east side, there are houses there. And so we wanted to limit the amount of ground we had to take from the front yard of a house. And so where that red line ends on the east side of the road, right where that dot is now, the extent of that line on the east side it's bordered by a fence from the residents. And so we're basically not infringing on their yard. We're remaining in the right of way, and it just makes more sense from a constructability standpoint and a imposition on the residents.
Okay, I get that. Thanks, Chris.
Are you going to be putting in lights with those crosswalks?
There'll be, there's an existing pedestrian signal at the beach already. There will be a new one installed here. They'll be solar activated with flashing beacons to warn cars of pedestrians.
I have a question about I'm sorry, go ahead, Andy.
What about at the Hatch building? Is there an existing sidewalk on the western side of the street there?
Right here it connects to an existing walk that follows the roadway and continues up.
Okay, that understood there. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I think that on this section from Route 9, where you're bordering the western swampy area, aren't there existing guardrails and guard road protectives in items through there? Is there guardrails? What I'm thinking is there used to be guardrails all along that to keep people from driving off the road into the swamp there. Is that all gone? And was that on the right of way or just liberally applied to? Do you know what I'm talking about, Chris?
Chris may be able to speak better to that as to history, but currently out there, there's no guide rails or anything of that nature.
None at all. I thought there used to be the old concrete and wire guardrails along there. Maybe they've deteriorated over the years, but maybe that's, I don't know. Is there any anticipated widening of the road between the back of the gym parking lot and the town's beach, or is that all? Are we finished with the road widening exercises?
Again, Chris might be able to speak.
Yeah, there's nothing on the horizon that I'm aware of that would lead to any widening of that road.
I had thought, and maybe I missed, maybe I'm out of the loop, but I thought in conjunction with the construction of the additional housing units out there, that there had been some discussion of upgrading the road. I mean, it's a very old-fashioned two-rod road almost now. I thought there was some discussion of upgrading it to for higher volume of traffic, but maybe I'm mistaken. I'm often mistaken, so. Nothing? Okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any, in the past year that I've been kind of associated with this, I haven't heard any discussion about and I'm not aware of any discussion for the future in terms of widening the road.
They probably went off the table at some point and came back.
I wish they would, but
you know what I'm talking about, Andy? Wasn't there a discussion about that? No?
I don't recall, other than me standing up at a selectmen's meeting and saying, I wish you guys would widen the road, because I bike right along there and take my life in my hands. How is this work going to be coordinated with putting the new gas line in up to the development? If you put the sidewalk in, then they start running the gas line up, is it going to do anything to disturb this brand new sidewalk, or what's going to happen?
Yeah, so we've engaged with the gas company multiple times about this project and the deconfliction of any future work. We've walked the site multiple times with them, but they have not. I'm not really sure what the future is for that gas line, because it's been basically radio silent for about the last 6 months. So what we've told them is once we commit to this project and it actually is initiated and constructed, that any work they do associated with that road is they're not going to be authorized to cut into that sidewalk, since it's obviously going to be brand new and we're going to spend a lot of money on it. So they're well aware. We've engaged them multiple times and we'll continue to do before this thing actually gets built. But that's where we are on that.
Okay. I'm going to keep my opinion of Eversource to myself. Okay. Anything else from the board? Okay. Normally from here, I would proceed. I think we would not have a problem issuing a negative determination. However, Jordan, you haven't dealt with this before. Because you're asking for waivers, we need to vote on the waivers separately. We need to have separate motions for the waivers. The waivers need to describe in detail why a waiver is being granted. And I don't see that in any of the documentation. So that has to occur first before we vote on the making the -3 determination. So I'm going to have to ask to continue the hearing. We have to create the waiver motions and describe in detail why we're granting the motion, and go from there. So
there was updated information provided as part of the submission talking about the request for the waiver and outlining justification for it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it just that that needs to be in a different form, or looking for additional information?
We do a separate vote on the waiver.
Okay.
That's the way we do it. It's the way we've done it in the past, and that's the way we're going to do it now. So we need that, and that's usually drawn up by the conservation officer.
Okay.
Andy, so what you're saying is that you can't do that right now? You need me to send that to you and then do it on January 12th?
For a waiver, okay, that describes in detail why we're issuing the waiver. So this is how we've done it in the past. It's a separate vote.
Yeah, it seems like a procedural thing to make sure that you're consistent with what you've done in the past and you're getting through
because
the bylaws correctly, which
we need to have
an objection to.
A specific justification, because we don't want to set a precedent where, well, you granted these guys a waiver, why won't you grant us one? We need the specific reasoning for that in the waiver. So everything stands by itself.
Yeah, and given timing for the project, there's no objection on our end to following through with that procedure as you've outlined, and looking at coming back for the vote for the waiver and then the vote for the negative determination at the next meeting.
Yeah. that's our operational procedure. Jordan hasn't been here since the last time we had to do that, but that's how we've worked in the past. So
understood, and no concerns on our end. I just want to make sure we didn't need to get you any additional information. And then Jordan, if you feel like you need a little more from us, please let me know. We'd be happy to provide whatever you need.
Sure, that's great. Yeah, I'll draft something and run it by Andy. I think we probably have what we need on our end based on the comments that you submitted in your cover letter and your updated cover letter.
Sure.
So I don't think we'll have an issue, but I'll be in touch. I think just procedurally too, Nathan, if you can just shoot me an email requesting a continuation to January 12th.
January 12th.
Just as a representative of the applicant, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, that being it, anything else from the board? Okay, I need a motion to continue the request for determination of applicability hearing for Town of Westborough, Lyman Street right-of-way extension until January 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Andrew Kenningsberg, yes. Tim Bucklew.
Yes.
Stephanie Kelly. Not here. Justin Lundberg.
Yes.
Gary Kessler.
Yes.
Jerry Cushing.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
Okay. Stephanie, did you disappear? You're on mute.
Stephanie did send us a comment that I think she had to sign off. She's not feeling well, so that's what's in the chat box.
Okay, so I'll mark her as absent.
Correct.
Okay, so thank you guys. We'll see you in January.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So we go back to the schedule here. Oops. Bear with me a second. I just closed the file. There we go. All right. So next item on the agenda is discussion of the enforcement order for 40 Smithfield Parkway, DEP file number 332747. So where are we with this? Who's gonna go first here? Is it Holly or Bill?
I can start speaking and kind of introduce who we have here tonight. Bill Doyle, myself, from Doyle Engineering, consultant working with MBTA and Keolis to address the concerns of the enforcement order. We have Tess Paganelli here, waving her hand. She is representing MBTA. I don't see Holly on board, but Tess and Holly work close together. Oh, hi, Holly. And then Clary from Keolis is also on the call. And I guess we can just start by kind of, I don't know if Jordan wants to put up any graphics, or I submitted a couple of things today that we can talk about now as to response, but I can basically just start by saying, we received the enforcement order. We looked at, kind of the three main issues of the enforcement order. Basically spoke about continued maintenance of the stormwater system throughout the property, snow dumping in the corner of kind of that back parking lot, and how that corner is functioning with boulders and or no boulders, and then providing some signage identifying snow storage area and no dumping of snow area. Those are kind of the three main issues identified in the enforcement order. What has kind of transpired over the course of us receiving the enforcement order was a site visit with myself, Tess, US Ecology, one of the contractors that does the work out there, and Sherry from the commission. all went out there back in October to kind of, to take a look at what was going on out there and walk the site. We came up with the kind of some of the solutions to do out there as far as what needs to be done as far as ongoing maintenance of this whole stormwater system, and then particularly the corner of that back parking lot. What we were going to do with the gravel basin, as we're calling it. And basically what we've done is we've kind of, spruced up, if you will, the operation and maintenance plan, made it a little more clearer, created a graphic, and we can put that up in a second if Jordan wants to, or I can put it up on my screen. Basically identifying all of the stormwater BMPs, if you will, that are out there, and kind of responsibilities, when they'll be checked, when they'll be maintained in a seasonal pace. And then the other major thing was the gravel basin in the back corner, and what that would require to get it back up to working order. And we can, I guess we can, Jordan, if you want to, do you want to share your screen, or me to share my screen, or how, do you want to?
Are you going to show pictures, or?
I wanted to go to just to the graphic map, the just to kind of set.
Yeah, you probably, let me stop my share and have you show exactly what you want.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure I had that. So, and just so the commission knows, Bill sent us 3 documents mid-afternoon today. They're in your Dropbox. I'll send you an email too and provide you a direct link. And just so you know, Bill, the commission didn't have a chance to review those, and truthfully, I didn't have a chance to review in detail either between when you submitted them to us and now.
Yeah, my intention was to go over these more tonight as kind of a presentation material. Basically this is the, so what's up on the screen now? Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to try and get my pointer out here. So I'll just, can everyone see my mouse?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to go quickly through, kind of what's out there and what we walked the site and looked at, and what needs, maintenance of the system. And again, this is a graphic. This is for the guys that are going to go out there and maintain the system. And we just basically wanted to capture everything that's out there and say, this is what has to be done for it. And this is the pace at which it should be done, spring, fall, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. And again, just going through quickly, we have the large detention basin that basically deals with stormwater from the larger parking lot F here. We have drain lines and catch basins that feed it on these 2 fingers here. And we call out to inspect and maintain the catch basins at a regular basis. Call out, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, we call out, cleaning out debris, cleaning out vegetation as needed at the inlets to the basin here, cleaning out the walking path or mowing the walking path that goes around it, and cleaning out the vegetation as it gets overgrown along the edges. There's an outlet swale here that also requires some level of cleaning. Over in the back parking lot, again, we talk about sweeping, and everything refers down to the bulleted items, if you will, down at the bottom here, and that's kind of the tasks that need to be done. In the back parking lot here, parking lot E, we have there's a swale that basically discharges stormwater from the basin, and then there's the gravel basin that's in this corner. So stormwater comes, it hits this gravel basin, it goes through a drain pipe and or overland flow into this basin. From there, it goes overland flow through this swale and then down into the wetland system down here. Now, I wanted to put up this graphic because this is the gravel basin. We'll see a couple of pictures on. This gravel basin here was virtually undiscernible when we went out there at the beginning of this whole thing, in that it basically was a riprap gravel basin that had filled up and silted up with sand and everything. So you couldn't really tell it was a gravel basin anymore. And what, one of the big projects we did out here as a response to the enforcement order was to go in and clean that basin out. And what we essentially did was got out there with the truck and a big machine and just pulled everything out, the riprap, the sand, and everything that was there, and got back down to what the virgin basin was, put down filter fabric, and then rebuilt the gravel basin to what it was, probably in my mind, probably better than it was originally. And we can see some of those pictures. And that was kind of the big initiative that we needed to get done out here. I want to go to next the letter that we submitted with this, which has pictures in the back of it, pictures at the end of it. So you'll see this letter in your Dropbox. I want to scroll down to some of the pictures at the back that show the. So this is, you can't really tell because maybe a little too close, but this is where the gravel basin used to be. We pulled out all, and we're still excavating at the time of this. But one of the things we wanted to just identify here is the, the under drain pipe that was in there. We jet vacked and cleaned out the outlet pipe that goes into that wetland and into the retention basin in the back. That's just a picture showing that. But these are the pictures that I want to show. Essentially how this ended, how the gravel basin ended. The parking lot is off to the left-hand side here. We have these large Jersey barriers, if you will, or concrete blocks to prevent the snow plows from, pushing into the basin. We have rocks, the large boulders along the back of it. So in the event that the plow does get through it, which it won't get over these things, and it won't go through this, it's not going to push snow over the back of the basin. Now, what we know is behind here where my cursor is, that's where the wetlands are. So we essentially want to protect it. Over here behind the fence is where the retention basin is. So the intent is the snow will melt up on the parking lot here. Let me scroll down to the other picture. The snow will be stockpiled in the front here in an area much larger than that's shown on the screen. It'll be able to melt and infiltrate. It'll get into this basin here. It'll collect and either infiltrate, get through the under drain, and then over into the basin that's behind it. Or in the event that it all clogs or whatever, we created a swale that actually discharges into that pond as well. We built up, I don't know if you can see my cursor, if there's a lag or anything. What we noticed is this area right here was not built up in such a way that if this system ever overflowed, runoff from the parking lot could short circuit and go straight to the wetlands. So we built up the back of this basin. So any water, there's no chance of it getting beyond this basin. It'll always be directed through the gravel basin and into the retention basin that's on the side there. So basically, and yeah, when we put up the signs, and Jordan mentioned maybe we should, we talked a little bit back and forth, maybe we should move that sign because it is a little, that's a sign that says snow storage area, and it may imply that we snow storage here. That sign should be out in the front, implying that the snow storage happens out front, and we can discuss that. But essentially, through the plan the larger plan we just saw, and actually let me just switch to the one final kind of graphic here, which is really just a spreadsheet of the different stuff that's identified on that map we saw earlier. We identified, so that map we saw earlier correlates to all of the items that are on this list. It's again one simple plan and one simple sheet here that the contractors will go out and basically able to look at and see what they need to get done here. But again, like retention basin 1, mow perimeter path, clear inlet, clear outlet control structure, identifies who's it's to be done, who's to do it, when it's to happen, and area to identify that it's been completed. And again, this all correlates to the map that we saw earlier. So these are all the things that we picked up on site when we walked out there with Sherry and Tess from MBTA and Brian from US Ecology, one of the contractors that we have doing work out there, identified all of these as all of the different areas that need to be cleaning. We've got them on a list, and ideally we'll get these things done at the times identified, spring, annually, weekly, whatever it may be. So basically what we're doing here is we've created a more robust operation and maintenance plan to make sure and a mechanism to make sure that we capture everything to be done. And the other big thing was basically all the work we did in that gravel basin to bring it from non-functional back to functional. And that basin is on here on this list as well to be maintained in an annual and checked regularly. And then we obviously put up the signage around the parking lot that says no snow dumping or snow dumping in this area. So I think we've kind of addressed the three major issues that were identified in the enforcement order, and we're just we're here to hear what you guys have to say, what you think. I will ask if Clary or Tess from MBTA or Clary from Keolis or Holly from MBTA has anything else to add. But I think I went kind of through the whole thing there.
Just for the record, this is Clary Kutu from Keolis. I've been working now before Jordan came on board, with Sherry, I believe since 2016. We have already since 2016, between 2016 and 2019, implemented a lot of the stormwater best management practices, and we've incorporated that into our stormwater schedule of maintenance activities on an annual basis. So many of these action items that you see here have been implemented. The ones that are added new to this maintenance program are the sweeping and the gravel basin, highlighted here as B and C. Other than that, all the other elements are incorporated on an annual basis on a rotating schedule with our contractors and personnel. So we're pretty confident that we're going to continue doing this efficiently. And that's all I wanted to say. I think we're pretty good.
Tess or Holly, do you want to add anything or?
No, I think you covered it all. I do think, Jordan, you were able to get out and actually see the work that was done as well, right? So you could let the commission know what you thought of what it looked like out there, more than just what was on the pictures.
Yeah, Sherry and I thought it looked fine. I mean, our only concern, and Bill addressed that, was that the snow storage sign seemed to indicate that snow would be dumped directly on the riprap. So I think if that can be moved forward, so that it's clear that those barriers are a barrier and not not to contain the snow, but to keep the snow out of that area, that would be, I think, a next step, Bill.
Yeah, we can move the sign fairly easily. That's yeah.
So where, just as clarification, where would you move the sign? In front of the Jersey?
Yeah, I would put it in front of the Jersey barriers, so I mean, if you're plowing snow into it, you're like, okay, this is, the intent is to not go past the Jersey barriers or knock the signs down. Yeah. And what doesn't show up in any pictures that I've showed is, there is a significant area in front there where we can have snow kind of in that triangle of the edge of the parking lot.
How about a sign that says something very directly, no snow dumping beyond this point, and right at the end, so you'll have, you can dump in front of that point, but if you otherwise you're going to have to put a hole in the middle of the pavement somewhere out there. So I'd say just have a big sign that says no snow dumping beyond this point, border of your company.
So what does the sign say now, Bill? Because we have some of the signs that Mr. Bakalu mentioned in other locations. I wonder if we need to swap them.
Yeah, and we could do that, and I can see what the other signs say. What does this say? So
the snow dumping area.
Yeah, so that should be, in front, so that the snow dumping would occur in the angle.
See, even if you put it out in front of the barrier, though, it still implies that snow can be dumped beyond that. If you have a sign that says no snow dumping here in great big letters and spelled out in snowplowese, then maybe
I got a much better idea. Don't dump snow there. Move it to another part of the parking lot. Just don't put snow there. There's no reason it has to be there. You've got plenty of room in that parking lot to put it elsewhere. And I just don't understand why you would put it somewhere where you have to risk damage again and risk, damaging the drainage system, which you've spent so much money to fix and which we've been bugging you for years to fix. You finally got it fixed. Move the snow dumping somewhere else. I don't get it.
So if I may, I agree with you 100%. We have 138 parking lots. This is one of the things that we're constantly battling. And it's because multiple contractors, even I even have these issues with the towns who actually maintain some of our parking lots. So I tend to agree that when we put up signs, in this case, we should put a sign that says no snow dumping beyond this point. And it's the same sign that we have in other locations.
Clary,
and it works.
Clary, it's not even a matter of no snow dumping beyond this point. No snow dumping in that corner, period.
And like
That's
I said,
what I want to see. Otherwise, this is unacceptable.
Okay, so let me say here, the sign that's up on my screen right now.
Yeah.
I'll put that over there.
All right. That's what I want to see.
It's fairly simple to replace those signs.
Yep.
It's fairly
So
simple.
I'll just, we had a bunch of these, and this is one of the signs that's out on that parking lot, and we'll put this over in the other graphic.
Yeah, I just don't understand why this wasn't at the first thing you came up with. You got all that stuff in there, but if somebody's got a payloader to move a huge amount of snow off the parking lot, and I've seen plenty of places. There's parking lots in walls all over the place here. You have a really big, heavy snowfall, they're going to use a payloader to move the snow around. And they're going to look at that corner and say they can't see the drainage basin there, and they'll just dump the snow there. So
so we can put this sign there, and that will accomplish what we're trying to do. Essentially, the stormwater we want to run to that corner.
Yeah,
that's where it's going to drain to, and want it to the MPs. We want that to happen.
And I know it's going to take a couple of parking spots away, but this is the way we deal with it elsewhere. You have a specific snow storage area. You're going to lose a few parking spaces in the winter. That's just the way it is.
So we have additional signs. You don't need to move that one from there. We have.
Yeah, I know Dan had a bunch made up.
Yeah, so we can just put one of those and move it to the front of the Jersey barriers, which is more intuitive for people, and it's easier to see too.
Thank you very much.
Yep, that's not a problem. We can do that.
Very simple. Thank you.
Bill, that may also take care of my question, which is what prevents that area silting up by sand flowing across the parking lot and into that area again? And in your inspection for, I think it's B, I think that repair area is B, it didn't look like you were necessarily cleaning out sand and silt annually and on your checklist. If you could address that, I'd appreciate it.
So what do we say for area B retention? Such retention, gravel drain inlet. So this is the gravel drain inlet to be completed annually in the spring, April to May. Remove and replace gravel and sediment. And I'll dig into this a little bit because this was a concern of ours, and Sherry, we talked about it, and we're talking with Tess and Holly and Clary at MBTA and Keolis about this. So right now, the current practice is in the springtime, if it's filled with sand and settlement, we're going to do it all over again. Remove all the gravel that's all sedimented up and replace it. We know that's it's cost prohibitive. It's the best way to do it because we're guaranteeing we're getting all the sediment out of there. What we're working on right now is getting the funding to do a real catch basin there with the appropriate, hoods and everything else in it. But we didn't have that for now. So that will be another project that hopefully we can get funded or whatever in the future, hopefully in the next fiscal year to get that done. And then this plan would change from gravel drainage inlet to a regular catch basin. And then that would fall into, one of the other catch basin parking lot. It would fall into here, inspect and clean catch basin, and that would be 304 or something. So then we do that. And that's the much better solution. Not sure why a catch basin didn't get there in the original. But that's the plan. But right now, it's an onerous thing for them to have to do, but that's what they're required to do next spring. If this thing is full of sand and sediment, pull it all out and rebuild it again.
I get it. If you could just zoom back out, I want to make sure we're both talking about the same area.
Yeah. Let me zoom out. So we're talking about the gravel drain.
The other question I had was whether or not, so we were also looking for a point of contact long-term with the organization. Has that also been resolved?
Yeah, it's me. This is Holly Pongren from the T, and I talked with Sherry about that. She has my info now, which she had before. She was sending the information to someone at the T that wasn't there anymore. So now she has my information, and she'll make sure that it gets sent to me. And I did want to reiterate what Bill said. It's not ideal to have to sort of rebuild the basin when it gets filled up, but that's really the only way to clean it. There's really no other way, which is why we're looking at sort of hopefully funding a more permanent solution in the near future.
Yep.
Ideally, we'd like to get that to be a catch basin, and as I understand it, Holly and Tess have been working on getting that into this fiscal year.
That'll save you a lot of money going along.
I think you guys have been very organized.
Thank you.
Yeah. Holly, if you move on, how will Sherry know who else to contact? For example, if you go to another position at MBTA, or this is the kind of thing where communication gets lost in a bureaucracy.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly notify her, but also she has my mailing address at the MBTA, which is the environmental department's mailing address. Mm-hmm. She was sending it, I think, to someone over in real estate. So it wasn't even getting into our department. So in addition to having my email and my name, she also has the mailing address for our department. So if I were to leave, somebody else would get it.
Great. That's the kind of thing. Thank you very much for that.
I would just also add, she also has mine. So she's got 2 points of contact.
Super.
That's my cell number, and she's got all the numbers.
All right, great. Okay, well, I'm glad that you folks are willing to consider a different place for the snow storage. That's my biggest concern here about all this. So, anything else from the board? Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time this evening to come out and explain what you're doing. Jordan, nothing else?
No, I mean, I'll follow up with Bill, after this meeting. I'm not sure that sort of next steps have been articulated. I think we need to identify a specific area for snow storage, alternative area for snow storage. Mm-hmm. And then I think proceed with the plan that they've laid out for all of these various maintenance items. But again, I'll follow up, Bill. I'll follow up with you, or Sherry will after this meeting to kind of talk about those details.
Okay, great.
How would it proceed from there? After the details, do you guys need to vote on the enforcement order, or what's the procedural for you guys on that? Or should we just discuss that and offline, and
That's a good question. I mean, they've already ratified the enforcement order, and Andy, that might be something that you and I talk about. You have an O&M plan that you're updating that was part of an original filing, so it might be good to have a motion that you're approving this updated O&M plan at a future meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then would you rescind the enforcement order? I mean, I think ultimately we would want the enforcement order to be closed out in some way.
Yeah. Probably what we'd also like to do is see the O&M plan be put in the registry of deeds. It's attached. It's the updated O&M plan for this permit. So have that at the registry of deeds so it becomes part of the permanent record for this particular property, since you should have registered the order of conditions and the certificate of compliance at the registry for this property. So
look and see how they do that. Usually they want to have it connected to the order of conditions or the certificate of
yeah, it would be the O&M plan should have been part of the order of conditions, and that when it's registered at the registry of deeds, it becomes part of the property record. So
yeah, exactly.
The O&M plan that should be again sent to the registry of deeds and registered there, so it becomes again part of the record for the property.
Yeah. And they'll connect it however they mechanically connect it.
Yeah. So someone down the line doing a deed search. Not that I expect you folks are going to sell the property anytime soon, but it's part of the record. It's part of the public record in that sense, not just sitting in a file drawer at the town.
Okay, then I guess Jordan, we can work together to kind of figure out what else you all need. We can identify on here the snow storage area. We can move that sign or put up that other sign, and then you guys can work on your end to figure out what the mechanisms are to kind of close it out, if you will.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. If there's nothing else from the board on this. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Kudos.
Okay. Next item is approval of the minutes from November 10th. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll sign off on those. The next item is the approval of the conservation land use event permit. So that was in the Dropbox too, correct?
Yep, but I can share my screen so you can look at that. We can all look at that together. Andy, I don't have I didn't make a particular motion for you at this point. I thought we could look at it again. If you have any comments, then we'll go back to the drawing board. If you don't, then I think we can take a motion in January. But let me just bring that up if I can. Should be able to. Okay, are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay. So we obviously made some edits based on your comments. Notably, we took out all the other conservation areas except for the areas around Bowman and Sandra Pond that have historically been used for events, and this is in your Dropbox, so you can look at this more closely. And then we got we revised the second page and then got approval from the fire department that this is the language that they want used and communicated to folks that are going to be using the fire pit. But basically, the idea is that if you get a permit to use the fire pit at Bowman, that you need to call the fire department the day that you're going to burn to ensure that it's an appropriate day for burning, that there's no, air quality restrictions or EPA restrictions. And just some basic, rules of the road for burning. So that's pretty much it. So if there's any additional comments, great, great. You can either give them to me now or, email them to us over the next month. And then Andy, I think what I'll do is just put a motion on for January 12th to have you guys formally adopt this.
Okay. Anybody have, if people looked at this in the Dropbox?
Yes.
Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
No, I did. I think it addresses all of my concerns.
Okay.
The question I have is whether or not we need anything about also making sure that the police are okay with whatever activity is being planned.
Yeah, I think certainly if somebody was going to have an event where they needed a traffic detail or something like that, we'd want to know that. Gary, do you have a recommendation for where that might be inserted?
I don't. What I would suggest is maybe talking to the chief and doing something kind of like what you did for the fire department.
Sure, yeah.
If he thinks that's appropriate.
My sense is what he'll say is, to use our discretion, and if we get an application for a permit that appears like parking would be an issue, or let's say it's a running race that's going to cross Bowman Road or Bowman Street or something like that. But let me do that. That's a good idea, Gary. Let me do that. So, and at least if they don't want anything specific, that at least I can inform you that they've had a chance to comment. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, I would also just note for you, Jordan, that historically, this stuff, when it was under the rec department, the fire department permit was a requirement, but I don't know whether or not they had any contact with the police or not. But I think it's appropriate to ask him what he might like.
I think so too.
Yeah, you don't want them to get blindsided.
Is this are you going to promote events there, or is it just for when people come to you for eventing?
Just for when people come to us. Yeah, there's no, there's really no facility or infrastructure there to promote more than, scouting events. And, but, I just want a way to track this stuff over time, basically. Just get a better handle on what's happening there. That's all. Okay.
All right. Next thing is, the enforcement order for 27 Cook Street, map 4, parcel 78, or lack thereof.
Well, this is, I just want to discuss it with you guys, and then you can decide whether you want to go ahead and ratify the enforcement order or rescind it. I conducted a site visit late last week with the owner, very cooperative. He and I talked in the field, and then I sent a follow-up email with a 4-step restoration plan, which he's already completed, 3 steps of immediately. But let me show some photos so you guys can see what, in detail what the main issue was. Let me just bring these up. I've never shared a photo before, so just give me a minute to see how this works.
I think we had a congressman who got in trouble for, no, that was, who was it who got in trouble for that? Never mind. Editor for the New Yorker.
Inappropriate ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I just,
be careful.
Yeah, I guess let me try sharing that. And I just don't know if when I click on this, if it's going to actually bring it up or not. No, it doesn't. So, give me 1 minute. I'm sorry about this. I should be better at this technology based on my age, Let me see if I can do that.
That's better.
Okay, if that's okay with you guys, that way you can see them all. Basically, this homeowner had some work done, and he had everything kind of reseeded, but it was very late in the season, and essentially it didn't take. It's on a slope. So there was a lot of sedimentation down into the inner 20 buffer, and I think partially into bordering vegetated wetland. And so what we did was come up with a plan where you see he's got these straw mulch blankets covering the exposed soil. He has a silt fence up at the toe of the slope to prevent any further sedimentation in the wetland. And then I've asked for basically a New England wetland mix from New England wetland plants put down on the exposed areas within the actual, it's just on the edge of the BVW, and then mulched with straw. And we've left it that he's going to do that, verify with me that he's done it, and then we'll check in the spring, and that none of these erosion sedimentation controls will be removed until we see stabilization on the site. I guess I, kind of want your feedback, whether that's acceptable to you or whether you want to proceed with an actual enforcement order. The way that we wrote the enforcement order, and I communicated with Andy on this, is that they would come forward with a restoration plan by our February 25th meeting. But we sort of did that in the field, and I did my initial site visit, I think 2 Mondays ago, late in the afternoon. I was actually looking at the site next door at 29 Cook, and just noticed at 27 Cook this work that I hadn't been previously notified about. It was pouring rain. It was after 4 o'clock. It was basically dark. So it looked a lot worse than it turned out to be. And I think the remediation measures he's taking, should remediate the problem. That's kind of my report. I sort of want to get feedback from you guys on whether, you're comfortable with this approach, which is more informal, or whether you want to proceed with an enforcement order.
Can I just add one thing based on the conversations you and I had?
Sure.
It was not only, there was a phone conversation, you got a phone call that the pond downstream of this was silting up, that people were seeing the silt in there. Before you went and looked at even noticed what was going on the property, so we didn't know where it was coming from until you were out there, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And while on site, I tromped around down in the wetland behind all of the homes along Cook and Ruggles extensively with this homeowner. And, there's no evidence that I can see that the sediment leaving 27 Cook extends anywhere near that pond. There's a lot of yard waste dumping and debris back there. I mean, certainly I think it would behoove our department to send an outreach letter to get people to stop dumping back there. There's, I think that would require further investigation to really understand the impacts of the sedimentation on that pond. That's at 202 Ruggles Street. And I've communicated with the neighbor that this is the approach we're taking with 27 Cook. And I think they're going to decide whether they want to try to seek remediation from that particular homeowner. That's kind of, what I saw on the property.
So the question is whether or not to proceed with filing the enforcement order.
Yeah, I mean, look, an enforcement order is basically just a formal way of notifying a property owner that something's wrong. It would be sent to the DEP, but the DEP wouldn't intervene unless we asked them to. And really, this is just me talking. But I feel personally that what we would ask for in an enforcement order, we're already getting through cooperation from this homeowner. I think certainly if something else happens, right? If this particular fix doesn't work, or if there's further alteration that, in our opinion, isn't being mollified or remediated by these steps here, then I think we're talking about escalating this. But I think at this point, we can do this relatively informally and in-house.
Anybody have any objections at this point to proceeding that way?
Yep, sounds good.
I endorse the idea.
Okay. Oh,
I agree. You get further with honey.
Yeah, in fact, Justin and I had a couple of email exchanges about just the not necessarily policy, but just our attitude as a department toward enforcement and violations and how to interact with homeowners. And, you know, I agree and think this is a better approach right off the bat. And then to use an enforcement order, which then notifies DEP when we don't feel we're getting remediation on, you know, with this approach. And so I'm in favor of that as kind of our policy. And I think
Yeah, Jordan, Justin here. Yeah, I think this is a great result. This is exactly, you know, what I was talking about, that, you know, it's a delicate situation when you're dealing with a homeowner and somebody who pays taxes in town, and you get, Jordan and I talked about this, just kind of paraphrasing my take on it, is that people get sensitive when you, not you, but just when the town goes on their property and tells them they did something wrong, whether they did or they didn't do something wrong, it's going to rub people, a lot of people, the wrong way. And I think that coming with a friendlier, more educational approach at first is a great policy for the board to have. And then if, you know, the homeowner doesn't appreciate that policy, we can certainly take a harder approach. But I just think one of the hallmarks of our board and conservation has been, you know, a willingness to work with residents and businesses in town to get to a result that's good for everybody without a lot of battling back and forth as much as we can. So, and I think this is a great example of that, and resolution that doesn't require, you know, any action aside from what Jordan's already done, which is great.
I will add to that, Justin, and I told you this in the email exchange we had. We have our own internal notice of violation system database that generates basically a form, and I did issue that, and basically that just says, you know, something's not right here, and then, you know, I augment that by, you know, either a memo or you know, an itemized list that this is how we're going to remediate based on a site visit, so that 10 years from now, we have some easy way to look and know that this occurred on this particular property. But that's not an enforcement order. That's not like a Mass DEP Form 9. That's our own internal notice of violation. And it's not just for wetland violations. You know, we have it so that you can mark a checkbox for you dumped grass or yard waste on our conservation land. So it is more informal than enforcement order, but it's our way of keeping record and notifying homeowners and businesses that something occurred.
I think it's great. That's a great mechanism to do it, and a great result. So that's great.
Good.
Well, it helps he had a cooperative homeowner to start with too. So
yep, definitely.
Right. I mean that makes all the difference too. But sometimes, as you know, Andy, you know, the initial, you know, if you walk on somebody's land and you say, well, look, you've done all this wrong, that initial kind of confrontation, initial encounter, let's call it, sometimes can be very acrimonious. And when, you know, the homeowner may have a few days to reflect, or in some cases call their advisors, and their advisors say, hey, look, you overreacted to this, you can still get to a good result. But, you know, and we all know there are homeowners and businesses in town that are chronic violators, and so they don't really deserve that type of leeway, but this is a good result.
Yeah.
I think it has a really good educational function too, and modeling function, because you're showing people that, you know, you can have responsible respect for the environment without. I have to take this. I'm sorry. I have to go off.
I will say, just since we're we're at a public meeting and this is on the record, that the owners of 202 Ruggles may want to pursue some type of remediation or restoration, and I'll be communicating with them on that. That's a new process for me, wherein the action of one homeowner has some deleterious impact on a resource area on another homeowner's property. If they do want to pursue that, I'll keep you in the loop, but I will probably rely on town council to advise me on, how we determine definitively that the impact they're seeing is from 27 Cook, for example, and then what to do about it, and whether that's within our jurisdiction or not. As I said, there's a lot of misuse of the wetland back there from all of those residents. But they happen to have noted, they're noticing sedimentation recently since the work at 27 Cook occurred. And it was a lot of exposed soil, there's no doubt. So I'll keep you in the loop on that if that goes forward.
So have you walked the entire length from 27 Cook down to the pond to see if sedimentation goes that far?
Yeah, and it doesn't go that far. There's no visible, it doesn't go very much beyond the edge of their existing lawn. You know what I mean? So I think it would probably be difficult to pinpoint it to a specific source. But I think what I have offered to 202 Ruggles, and I think what we can do as a department is try to, through education, but really work with all the surrounding homeowners that are depositing their debris in that area to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because there's actually not that much vegetation in there. It is wetland. In fact, we had it delineated. I made the owners at 29 Cook delineate it for some improvements they were doing so that we could definitively show that they were outside of our buffer, which they are. But I know for sure that if at least a finger of that extends far beyond what the state data layer shows.
Yeah.
But, when you walk in there in the summer, I think it could be more vegetated, particularly if there were fewer, piles of yard waste and grass clippings, et cetera. And so I don't think it's a necessarily a healthy system. So I think there's multiple things that can be done there to improve the water quality as it gets to the pond on 202 Ruggles Street.
Yeah, it's a conversation I've had with people before where I tell them that if there's wetlands on their property, they can't dump in it. And they say, but it's my property.
Right.
Yeah, trying to get people to have the mindset, and it's like, well, you wouldn't dump motor oil on your property, would you? But
right,
it's a tough conversation to have.
It is, and my experience has been if we're going to send a notification to tell people they can't dump there, we need to give them information about what they should or could do with that material.
Yeah,
because our goal is to help people do the right thing.
Right, but it's going to be for 202. It's going to be incumbent upon them to prove harm. That's a whole process.
That's what I communicated to them, and I don't have direct experience with that. So but we'll go down, if they want to go down that route, then we will get pulled in because, we have jurisdiction over the protection of that wetland.
Yeah.
So I'll keep you updated on that.
Okay. Next thing is the 2021 meeting schedule.
Yep. Did everybody see that? It's in the Dropbox. It's the same. It's the second Tuesday of every month in 2021. So the next meeting is on January 12th. So you can check, you'll see all the filing deadlines and everything.
Jordan, just a comment. So when we were talking to the folks about the parking lot over by the train station, they had submitted some materials this afternoon for tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
Our practice has been that all materials, I don't remember the exact lead time, it's a day or 2 days, or Andy,
I think it's COB the day before.
That, but I want to make sure that Jordan was aware of that for the future.
Yeah, it's on our website. You have a submission policy. I think it's signed by Andy back in maybe 2014 or something. But it basically says COB the day before. And so that's what I indicated to Bill when he submitted today, that I said, I'll drop it in their Dropbox, but I cannot guarantee at 2 p.m. on meeting day that any of our commissioners are going to look in there. And I don't have time to review it at this point. So, but thanks for bringing that up, Gary. We'll make sure we communicate that to people.
Yeah.
And then the issue with the DEP, it turns out that, Dan LaFrance sent me their file number for the DCAM pump house demolition. And I looked in there and noted that they have an incorrect email address for us, which is just a stupid clerical thing. But so we haven't gotten any file number notification from DEP. Basically, we replaced Sherry's personal email with our department one so that we would both get them. And so that no matter who sits in our desks, our department would get them. And so that's a major issue. That's an easy fix, but it's a big issue.
I don't know. It makes all these filings really simple from your point of view.
Well, right. And the other thing I'll just update you on is the engineering department, the inspector that typically does stormwater management standard review is tested positive for COVID. So he's on leave. And then our town engineer and her new assistant are on quarantine. I mean, they're still working from home, but it's hard to review like West Park Drive on your, town issued laptop. So things are just moving slow right now. But when we first started this, the governor's order, as part of the governor's order to allow us to do public meetings virtually, there were tolling periods. We never observed those. We just kept plowing ahead with hearings, but that's now ended. So we have to keep observing these 21-day deadlines. So basically, we continued 5 Tech and West Park Drive to January 12th. If we get to January 12th and we still don't have the information we need, then we just keep continuing. But it could be slow getting the review that Sherry and I need from our engineers to review some of these projects, at least for a little while.
I don't know if you noticed, but they just tightened the public stuff in Massachusetts again today.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, as the numbers are going up. So yeah. I don't think that affects the administrative, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else, Jordan?
I have a couple of updates. I mean, Sherry had to call in sick tonight, so she had a few stormwater things, but nothing that just updates on things that are ongoing. But a couple of weeks ago, I sent around an email about the former BPAC Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee that I believe Gary sat on, has now been renamed the Active Transportation and Safety Committee, and we need someone to sit on that, either the Conservation Director or a Conservation Commissioner. And I need to tell them today, basically, who that's going to be. So I'm opening it up. If any of you want to sit on that committee. Sherry has expressed interest. I don't know if that's an option. One thought I could offer to Christy Williams is that she can put my name down and Sherry as an alternate so that Sherry can participate as she wants. But conservation gets a seat at the table. So are any of you interested in sitting on that? Or Gary, would you like to continue your participation in that group?
Well, I would let you know that, in fact, I was assigned to that group in a meeting that I missed.
Who's not here?
A couple of comments, by the way, about the charter for that group. One is that the charter indicates that they want to run the BPAC over the old trolley line. And I've repeatedly made the point to them that they need to be more flexible about the route. And I think that still remains a concern, quite frankly. The second thing is that they want to build this thing in segments. And that's also a concern because it's not clear whether or not a segmented route has value if you're never going to complete enough of the route to create value. And so those two things still remain a concern to me when I read that charter as I put it together. It's also a very frustrating group for me personally, and probably for a few others of us. I mean, I would continue with it if that's what people really want, but I would be just as happy if somebody else that really understood what was going on was interested in working on that as well.
Andy, do you want to sort of put it up to a straw poll here? I mean, you all can just say, you want your agent to sit on that, and then I'll submit my name and indicate that Sherry is an alternate and she'd like to participate. And I'm very comfortable with her doing that.
I think that there are people who have uncomfortable experiences, at least on this board, and I don't think that they should be forced to keep doing it. Is anybody who is right now interested in being on that, representing the board, representing the commission on that, in that committee?
And just, Gary's concerns are related to the B wall, but that's not it. That's not its only charge.
There's more going on than just that. And which I think is great that the focus is being made broader than that.
Right.
I think my concern is that the focus will go back to B wall to the exclusion of all else, but it's kind of hard to know unless we know the makeup of the other members of that new committee.
I can tell you.
Really interesting, quite frankly.
I'm sorry.
And the smart street stuff looks like a really good thing.
Yeah.
For the town and to be involved in and that sort of stuff. It's the B-wall stuff and the people that have been involved in it in the past.
Yeah.
That concern me.
Yeah, Jordan.
One police department rep, one fire department rep, one building. So the building commissioner, one rep from the DPW, conservation director or conservation commission member, town planner or planning board member, and then 5 residents.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think it's 11.
Yeah. So it's a broader group than that. So, which having more town officials involved, I think, helps, certainly. I know I don't have the bandwidth to do it myself. I don't know about it. If anybody else, I know Kelly probably doesn't.
I nominate Jordan.
That's fine. I mean, I think that can change over time, but they basically just need a name because they need to set this up as a committee for the town. Yeah. So that's fine. I'll put my name in, and I hope to be able to allow Sherry as an alternate because I think she has a particular interest in that type of land use planning, and we'll go from there if that's okay with you guys. Okay, good. So just a couple of quick things. You guys know way more about the history of this than I do, but the Boston Hill Ward property, they're sort of active again. And, Fred had to intervene and do a stop work on some land clearing that appears to be outside of our jurisdiction, but is definitely within his. And we've done a couple of site visits. There's definitely been impact to wetland. I know that's nothing new, but I think there's been recent impact to wetland. They have retained the services of Mike Scott at LDC to help them develop a plan. What they'd like to do is what they are doing now, but with actual permits and without impacting the resources on the property, which is, a composting operation and other things that they need permits through the Mass Department of Environmental Protection for. So I don't necessarily have anything to update you on right now. I think their first step is they're going to, Mike Scott's got, people flying drones and overlaying, historic survey data, to try and figure out what the extent of the impact they've had on the site, and then they're going to go from there. Back in the day, you guys permitted a stream crossing on the main unimproved road. They had silt fence there that was pretty rough shape. So Brian Ward is working on fixing that for us as just like an immediate thing that needs to be done. But I know Fred is adamant to get a resolution to this. So it's not just me that's going to be advocating to get a resolution, and
the thing is, the stuff that they were doing. We had a meeting at DPW with all manner of town officials. We basically read them the Riot Act 2 years ago,
right?
And they promised, "Oh, we'll be good. We'll clean up everything." I mean, they were free from anywhere and everywhere,
right?
And saying, well, we're going to recycle it, but they were taking stuff that was most likely contaminated.
Yep.
And
no, I know. I know you're shaking your heads as I'm talking, but
yeah. Well, to say, oh, they're interested in getting it all permitted now. It's like,
yeah,
I
know.
I'll believe it when it happens. So
I know that I know that you are cautious about this, and I think I don't have the history here, but I know Fred is too. So
talk to Derek, he can tell you.
Yeah, well, I've read the history.
Yeah,
I know Derek. I know Derek's been involved for a long time, and
what was Fred's engagement? How was Fred engaged? Because of zoning violations?
Because of zoning violations. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep, that's right. And then he will be. He's soon to be the director of our department. So yeah, that's where he comes in. I know that this just seems to be cyclical. I mean, truly, we walked out on site with a copy of the wetland delineation and the kind of the plan that was put together in 2018. It wasn't a plan; it was just existing conditions. It's hard to know where we were, but truly, and until they get an updated survey, but I think that there's been some extensive wetland loss. I mean, just demolition of actual bordering vegetated wetland on the site that will need to be replicated, at great cost. So I'm just giving you an update.
Was there ever an enforcement order on that property? Yes.
Yeah, there was.
That still,
go ahead.
Is it still alive? Is it still functional?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that what was asked for was, there's documentation to show that was resolved, but it has since been. Obviously, there have been problems since then. Truthfully, Tim, it's hard to know that the looking through the files on this thing is. I mean, this goes back a long time, and.
Yeah, it goes back to before I joined the Conservation Commission in 2000. So
that's right. But there's existing order of conditions, right? I mean, it's so we the one thing when an enforcement order carries more weight if you can tie it to a pre-existing permit, and so that I think
Well, you're going to have a busy winter.
Yeah, I mean, again, so I'll keep you in the loop. I don't know the timing on anything. I do know they have retained the services of Michael Scott, which could be a good thing. And I think the first step is we're going to at least get a plan that shows the extent of the alteration on the site, where everything is in relation to the mapped resource areas on the property. And then they'll be working on a plan to present to the town. And then the final thing I've got is I participated in a Zoom call right before Thanksgiving with some AmeriCorps volunteers that are working with Sudbury Valley trustees. They're trying to strengthen, local municipality and nonprofit land trusts' ability to engage volunteers. They're promoting this kind of volunteer engagement app called Nature Groupie. I don't know that the WCLT is necessarily going to participate that much in that, but it was really great because I got to know the president of WCLT, Chris Sassetti, I think his name is, and Keith Martin, the stewardship chair. And, they're very interested in getting involved, obviously, on our new properties, Day Prey and the Zwicker Farm. And we talked a little bit about, well, how can we engage volunteers on these properties? We need to do land management planning. I would like to get more natural resource data. So we talked a little bit about in the spring doing an iNaturalist BioBlitz, which is just a citizen science data collecting type of activity. The other thing they relayed to me is, they're responsible for the maintenance of our land and their own land. And one challenge they have is that they get reports from people. Let's say there's a tree down or there's trash here or there. And the descriptions of the location of where these things are sometimes is vague, or it's like a member of the public tells them where something is, but it's not like it's mapped, or it's not like there's a point dropped on a map and they can easily go and resolve it. So, I have a meeting tomorrow with our GIS administrator in town, and she's actually drafted up a form through People GIS where you'll be able on our website to go. It'll say like trail issues or conservation land issues, drop a pin on where you were, and then there'll be a couple of drop-down menus where you can indicate what the problem was. So I'm hoping that'll at least make it so that we can respond a little quicker to issues out on our land. And I think that's it.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
Okay. Well, for the second month of a row, we're getting done at like 10.
Yeah.
And something Jordan and I discussed was maybe we should. Well, all of a sudden we're seeing more permit applications, which we haven't seen in a long, long time. We had many, many meetings which started at 7 and ended at 7:20. Doesn't seem to be the case at the moment anymore. Whether we should think about going to 2 hearings a month instead of 1. We don't have to make a decision tonight, but I'd like you folks to consider it. We end up having about a half hour or so of other business and pending matters. And we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items, 8 items actually, of primary business tonight, and that can get to be quite a bit. So might we want to consider going to 2 hearings a month, and give that some thought. We can come back and talk about it, or you can email me your thoughts. I think that would be the best thing to do. What you think about doing that, because getting past 9 o'clock for hearing, it does get pretty exhausting. So, and
sorry, Andy, I didn't mean to cut you off.
And also making applicants wait a long, long time before we get to them. So,
Andy, our discussion, I really like this idea, was thinking about every other week for hearings, and then maybe every other week for more business policy discussions, talking about stewardship, talking about our enforcement strategy. Oftentimes Sherry and I have conservation updates that we don't give because, truthfully, I'm tired too. And we could start. I mean, we have these statutory deadlines we have to meet, so that we have to keep that in mind. But I mean, we could even start with, keep your monthly meeting schedule for hearings and for issuing orders of conditions, and then maybe it's not maybe it's not 1 month, maybe it's 6 weeks or something, where we have an additional meeting where we get to talk about stewardship, or we get to talk, as needed, for example, just to start. But
yeah, but even 2 notice of intent hearings and 2 RDAs, it took a while.
It did.
And
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
And maybe we should, if we can possibly do it, limit meetings. Okay, we have 3 public applications we hear per meeting. Like I said, try to keep the stuff from going way past 9 o'clock. So yeah, having 1 meeting for administrative stuff or other discussions is a great idea if we can work it. But if we could try to keep the meetings down to 2 hours, if at all possible, that way. I'd just like you folks to consider that. Yeah.
Andy, the only issue I see is, strictly speaking, an applicant can submit an application at any time, and we're obligated to open a hearing within 21 days.
Okay.
So we made up a waiver. We do, but that has to be done we can't force an applicant to sign a waiver saying that they have to surrender their right to a hearing within 21 days. That has to be voluntary. So, I was thinking more like all the stuff that's under other business pending could maybe be on the off meetings, and because we would have been done around 9:15 or something if we didn't go to then approving minutes and all the stuff we've talked about since then.
Okay.
So just a thought.
I mean, I kind of like the idea to keep us from getting,
fatigued.
Yeah. Everybody getting burnt out.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me know your thoughts. Just send me an email. Let me know what you think, and we can take it from there at the next hearing. Okay. Well, anything else from anybody? Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Adjourn.
All in favor, raise their hands.
All in favor, leave the room.
Just note that that Stephanie's no longer with us. That's
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Okay. You okay with it, Justin?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm leaving.
Okay, folks. Good night.
Yeah.